to call the order meeting of the El Centro City Council. Roll call, please.
Mayor Jackson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cardenas,
Present.
Councilmember Villegas-Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Silva,
Present.
and Councilmember Garcia.
Present.
If you please join me in the pledge, will be led by Councilmember Garcia and the invocation by Councilmember or Pro Tem Mr. Cardenas.
Ready? Begin. You guys join me in the invocation. Father God, thank you again for this evening, Father God, and we're just grateful that we can come here before you. Lord, we just ask that you continue to be with our city staff and our citizens and our community, that you would put a hedge of protection around them, and we just do this and do your work in your name. Amen.
Now we'll have our report from our city attorney out of closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a motion by Councilmember Walker, a second by Councilmember Cardenas, the City Council met in closed session today at 11:30 a.m. All council members were present except Councilmember, can't read my own note here, Councilmember Silva, that's correct. He joined us at 11:31. So a report was given to council on two anticipated litigation items. On one item, there was only a report given. On the other item, on a motion of Councilmember Walker, a second by Councilmember Cardenas, we were instructed to send a collections letter making a demand for payment to Olympus and Associates Incorporated, and then 10 days thereafter to initiate a limited civil action if necessary. The City Council also met with its real property negotiator, Abraham Campos, and heard a report regarding the purchase negotiations for the property located at the various locations set forth in the agenda under closed session. And on a motion by Councilmember Walker, a second by Councilmember Silva, the council gave direction via unanimous vote to begin negotiations for the purchase of that property. There was also an update given with regard to pending litigation in the case of City of El Centro et al. Versus David Lanier, and that was for informational purposes only, and closed session concluded at 1:12 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Childers. Okay, presentations and announcements. We have a proclamation for one of our own. It's Patricia Urania. This is for being recognized as the Woman of the Year for our Assembly District. Patricia Urania, 2016 Woman of the Year. Whereas on March 14, 2016, Ms. Patricia Urania was honored by the 56th District Assembly Member Eduardo Garcia as the 2016 Woman of the Year in recognition for her significant contributions to the community. And whereas Ms. Urania has worked for the Recreational Division for 34 years and has dedicated herself to making recreation activities accessible within the community. You started when you were like 4 or 5? 3? Yeah. Whereas Ms. Urania is highly involved with the youth and individuals with disabilities and serves as the Area Director for Special Olympics Southern California Imperial Valley Division. And whereas Ms. Urania is a proud parent and a role model to colleagues and staff. And whereas the mayor and the council members congratulate Ms. Urania for her accomplishments and commitment to the community of El Centro. Now therefore, I, Jason Jackson, Mayor of the City of El Centro, State of California, do hereby proclaim April 5th, 2016 as Patricia Urania Day, 2016 Woman of the Year in the City of El Centro. I think before we have you come up and accept this, we'll have council comments. So, Mr. Silva, would you like to lead off?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pat, I know personally your dedication to our community, not just El Centro, but the entire Imperial Valley. So I was so happy to see that you were recognized by our esteemed legislator in Sacramento, and it's an award that is very well deserved. It's an award that demonstrates to the community your commitment, your value, what you do for our children and our adults. So I could not be prouder than you today for this achievement award that you're receiving, and congratulations.
Ernest?
Yes, again, congratulations. You're just an amazing lady. You're actually an outstanding mother too. I got to meet your son over the weekend, and we're just so fortunate to have you as part of our city family, and I'm glad you've chosen to be employed with the city of El Centro, and just the amount of lives that you have touched is just incredible. And I want to thank you, and we'll be joining you on Saturday at the Loft. So looking forward to it, and thank you again for all the hard work that you do, ma'am.
So for 19 years, I've shared this journey with Pat. And Pat, you are a hero in this community, and the things that you have done that have regional significance, in particular with regard to Special Olympics and the NIPM program, your leadership on the Juvenile Justice Commission. You have been a role model and an inspiration to so many people and have touched my life in so many positive ways. I'm just so thrilled that you are recognized with this award, but I hope that you understand that every day you've made an impact on people's lives. And I value you as a friend, I value you as an employee, and as a mentor, and one of my heroes. So congratulations.
Mr. Garcia?
I'd just like to say congratulations again. It's great to see your hard work and dedication have an impact in the community and to be recognized by the state. So congratulations, hats off. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just close by, I've known Pat a long time with, started I think in maybe Kiwanis, maybe before Kiwanis, but just such a great asset for the city of El Centro. And I know Marcelo and everybody that's worked with you, considers you just such a great asset. And a lot of the projects that we do and a lot of things that come out of Parks and Rec are so much better because of your efforts. And your work with Special Olympics, your passion for that is just, whenever you decide to hang up, it's going to be a huge loss for this community because you're just so passionate about it. So very excited. I think the women that were nominated with you were all great nominees. And for you to shine above that is just, just shows the dedication, the passion that you have for our community and for our kids. So congratulations. If you'd like to come up and join us. Yeah, we'll let her. Yeah, you should speak, because I know you'd like to speak from everybody. Don't worry about everybody is staring at you right now, Pat.
I like microphones. They didn't have child labor laws when I started working for El Centro, so I just kind of flew through the system. But I do want to say thank you so much. I'm very humbled by this proclamation. And it's when I first came to El Centro and I met Conrad Harrison, I said, I want to do something nice for this community, because I had just come from National City and I had so many kids and programs, and I said I want the same thing here for El Centro. So it's been a beautiful journey, and I'm pleased to say that I probably work for the best city in the United States, because I've traveled all over the United States looking at other programs, and I can say that I work for one of the nicest cities and the best department in the world. Thank you.
Here, Pat, why don't you come over here? They get a nice photograph of you. Make them walk. It's part of your fitness program. Make them walk.
Make them walk, okay, they'll exercise.
Okay, now we get to do something else that we all enjoy doing. Where's Chief Herbert? We get to have our fire chief introduce some recent hires to our fire department.
Honorable Mayor and council members. We recently hired 3 firefighters. They just finished their extensive training on days, so they're being assigned a shift. We also had the privilege of rehiring a firefighter who left and decided to come back, and I'm gonna have them come up and introduce themselves to you. See who the bravest is.
Just get it over with, really, it's best.
Hello. My name is Marcus Rickman. I'm from Whittier, California. And prior to being a firefighter, I was an EMT, and I was also a reserve at Santa Fe Springs. I come from a family of firefighters, so it's a privilege to work here. And in addition to that, I get the chance to work with my brother. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Alan Howdergy, and I've been living in the city of Brawley since I was 10 years old, and it's been a dream of mine to be a firefighter, and I've been slowly accomplishing my goals, and I'm grateful to be here working for the city of El Centro now, and hopefully I can continue progressing here in the city of El Centro, and thank you for this opportunity to work here. Thank you.
My name is Gabriel Tiemann. I'm from San Diego. I've been working for the past 3.5 years down here for Gold Cross Ambulance Service. So I got well acquainted with the community and all that. And I'd like to thank you very much for including me in the fire department and being a part of the city and all that. Look forward to finally finding a house down here with my wife. Been
There we
searching.
go.
I love it.
Wonderful.
My name is Matthew Rickman. I've met some of you before. I am the rehire that Chief Herbert speaks of. That is my brother back there. I am younger. I've been here about 2.5, 3 years. I used to live in the city of Imperial, but I moved down to El Centro just recently. Chief Herbert gave me the opportunity to come back, and I took it. I'm telling you, as somebody who's not from this area, who's not really have any ties to the valley other than just hunting, this is a pretty desirable place to work. I come from a family of firefighters. Not only my brother, but my dad and my uncle and my other cousin are all on the job, and we all work presently at this time. And I just want to say this is a good place to work, a good place to be. I wouldn't be back here. There's actually another gentleman that's coming back, and we wouldn't be here if we didn't want to. And I truly had the opportunity to come back, and I want to thank the city council, more importantly the chief, the administration, and the guys back here that took me back, and nothing but good things. And I look forward to being a true servant to the city of El Centro for a long time, because I have a long career ahead of me. So I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you.
Great. Any comments from council? Mr. Garcia? No?
So a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to put it out there again that to any of you that have spouses from out of the area, I was born and raised in Seattle, a little bit of an adjustment to the valley, but I've been here for 30 years, absolutely love it. So to the extent, I can talk with any spouses or potential girlfriends or anything like that about what a joy it is.
Girlfriends?
Well, that they have to have a say in things.
Oh, okay.
About what a wonderful place this is to be and raise kids and things to do and places to go and things to see. I'd love to fill that role. So please reach out to me if that works. I'd also like to thank the chief and was it who was my tour guide over at Station 3? Was it Trey? There he is. So my grandkids came into town, and I made a huge mistake. So any of you that want to go visit the fire station, don't do this. Ready? Don't take them to the fire station on their first day in the valley because it's downhill after that. Because all the kids wanted to talk about was when do we get to go back to the fire station and see the guys and see the trucks and everything else. So you were an amazing, amazing tour guide, and appreciate all of you that participated in the tour and you for setting it up. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, just Chief, I want to just thank you for always including the city council in bringing your new hires and introducing. That's such an important part to me and to this council. So, and I appreciate you bringing the new folks in and introducing them to the El Centro family. And I just want to welcome you folks too. We have great leadership, great chief, great BCs, great fire captains, great equipment. So I do want to welcome you guys and thank you for all your hard work and looking forward to seeing you around town.
Just-
Unless your house is on fire. You don't really want to see
Well, I see
them.
them at Vaughn's and stuff.
Same message to all of you. Congratulations. Welcome to the city of El Centro. We'd like to say and believe that this is the best city in Imperial County, and we truly believe that. And we are joining a great families, and congratulations. And hopefully it's a long career for all of you guys here, and that you stay with the city of El Centro. Congratulations. I do have a question for Mr. Jauregui. You're from Brawley, correct?
Very, sir.
Any relation to Norma Jauregui?
I know of, no, sir.
No? Okay.
That was going to be my question too, but I just, these are always the times I think all of us really enjoy is when we meet our new hires, plus, if it's fire or PD, I think it's just that much more special. But I think it's good to see you come back and you decide to bring your brother with you, so that's good. So, and I like to hear the fact that our other firefighter is looking for a house and your wife, and so I always like to see you guys settle here and make this your home. And I think we have the best city by far, and I'm glad you guys chose El Centro, and welcome to the family of El Centro. I think all of our employees are very fortunate to have such a great city that we work for. So, congratulations. Thanks, Chief. Okay, next, under public comments, we have introduction of the San Diego State Interim Dean Gregorio Ponce.
Hello.
How you doing?
Thank you for having me here and giving me this opportunity to introduce myself. I am Gregorio Ponce, and I'm a native of Imperial County. I left to do my studies and then came back, and I've taught at Imperial Valley College and also at San Diego State University at Imperial Valley campus. I am currently the interim dean for the campus, and I wanted to introduce myself and really try to reconnect with the city council. I think it's important that we work together in any way that we think we can to help meet the educational needs of Imperial County. We are in a period of transition as we get ready for a permanent dean, which we hope will be appointed sometime in January. But in the meantime, I am more than open to meet, listen, hear questions, address issues, or hear ideas on how we can better serve your needs, because I do want to present a full agenda to our future dean that will get things moving a lot quicker. So at this time, I will leave my business card with your clerk, if I may, and then answer any questions that you have now or in the future.
Mr. Silva, so like in your area here.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ponce, for joining us today. I think it's really important, and I think it's a great gesture on your part to come and see us, because education is as people have said, the great equalizer for all of us. And,
Absolutely.
And I have a great fondness for San Diego State University in Calexico and Dr. Ryan, who was my public administration professor. And, without the opportunities that IVC gave me and San Diego State gave me as a young man, I would not be here in front of you today. And so the value that San Diego State provides to our community is immeasurable. And many of us are in the same situation, that without the opportunity, without your doors being open, without great leadership and professors, that gave us the education that allow us to prosper and grow and be where we are today, we wouldn't be here again. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for coming to see us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Dr. Ponce, and I also want to just thank you for being here. It shows a lot of character and leadership to come here before the city council and just share that initiative and rebuilding that relationship or adding to that relationship. So I do want to congratulate you on you being here. I did do a little due diligence check on you, and I asked Dr. Ryan about Dr. Ponce, and Dr. Ryan said, hey, he's top notch. So thank you for being here this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I will be meeting you in Calexico for lunch.
Excellent.
I am very, very excited to have you here. I serve as the president of the Southern California Association of Governments, which is the 6 Southern California counties. And we have embarked on recent initiatives tied to poverty and education attainment, and the fact that we have 1 in 4 children living in poverty. And as Mr. Silva said, education being the great equalizer. And we really need to do a better job in this valley of access to education. And so I'm interested in hearing what plans are for SDSU, the interaction with SDSU and the main campus as well as IVC. We know that there's certain job clusters that if we could get people trained, they could immediately move into the workforce, in particular with the nursing program, which is very highly regarded. So I look forward to learning from you and welcoming you and supporting you in your role.
Thank you very much.
Garcia?
Welcome, Dr. Ponce. Thank you for coming and making the introductions. And we hope we can continue to have a relationship with San Diego State University. As my colleagues have said, education is fundamentally important, especially with this type of community that we have here. We want to have access to as many educational avenues as we do for all the children growing up here. We have IVC, we have SDSU. It's really good that everybody seems to be working together for a common goal, and that is to basically spread education. So I'm looking forward to what SDSU has in store.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
I would say, I think SDSU is just such an integral part of our educational system here in Imperial County, and I look around the room, and I got my bachelor's and my master's at San Diego State Calexico. Norma, our planning director, also got her master's there. I think Deborah Harold. I mean, we have a lot of people in our city staff that went to San Diego State and was able to work and take part in furthering our education because of the programs that we have locally here. And without those programs here locally, it would be so much tougher. And so I think a lot of us really appreciate what San Diego State offers to our community and to our residents, and I very much appreciate you coming here today and look forward to some great things in the future.
Thank you. I will just conclude by saying that I do think that the university at Imperial Valley is at a crossroad where we can really reconnect and see how we can go to the next level of providing better educational opportunities across the board, and hence the importance of reconnecting with the community directly. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll have our monthly report from El Centro Chamber of Commerce President, Mr. David Tyler.
Mayor Jackson, Council, thank you for having me back again. I was very pleased to follow the statements that you just made, because the first on my list to talk to you about was to remind you and thank you, the 3 of you, Mayor Jackson, Mrs. Walker, Mr. Cardenas, for participating in the upcoming signing day for college signing day that's coming up on April 26th. On our board, Renato Montano from the Central Union High School District Superintendent has asked the chamber to help put that program together. As you know, that's a program sponsored by the White House nationally to give students going away to college the same type of recognition that athletes used to get when they would sign and commit to a college. And in the long-term view of the Chamber of Commerce, we feel we have a kind of a brain drain in Imperial Valley of talented youth that go away, get their education, and then maybe pursue a job outside of the valley. But we think there's opportunity there, and I think that's great for the long-term economic growth of town to have people come back. So I want to thank you, the 3 of you, for participating in that. I think that'll be a great help. I wanted to congratulate the city on the wonderful dinner you had last week for the Imagine Awards, and then congratulate the businesses that were recognized there. And I'd like to extend, you'll get an invitation, but I want to extend it put it on your calendar, save the date for our June 16th annual dinner, which will be at Imperial Palms. I know many of you come each year, and we appreciate that very much. And Mayor Jackson, I have on my calendar the State of the City, and I'll get my spikes on, and we'll be ready to go in May.
Baseball.
Oh, never mind. So
You say Spike, he gets off. I don't know where he was going with that.
oh, we're going to climb a glacier or
Yeah,
something. I don't know.
Mountain climbing or something.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm looking forward to it, and for the people in the audience that don't know, I decided this year to kind of have a little bit more fun with the State of the City, and we're theming it after a baseball theme, and So we're looking to do things a little different and have a little fun with it, but I'm looking forward to that, and that's going to be May 12th at the El Centro Mall and Cinemark Theater, so we're looking forward to that.
Likewise.
All right, any questions for Mr. Tyler? No?
Appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have our presentation by Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation. And Cynthia, do you need PowerPoint or anything? No? Okay.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Jackson and City Council members. I'm here on behalf of Timothy E. Cali. We, all staff and some of our board members, are currently at the Foreign Direct Investment Forum, World Forum, and it's being held in San Diego. So I'm here on behalf of Mr. Cali and representing our board of directors and giving a little brief update on the activities that we've conducted over the year. And I want to thank the City Council for allowing us to come and give a presentation and congratulate you on a very successful Imagine Award dinner that you guys hosted last week. So IVEDC, Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation, our core mission is to market Imperial Valley to attract target industry, including renewable energy, international trade and logistics, and we've currently expanded to data centers, contact and business process outsourcing, and agribusiness and advanced manufacturing, including aerospace and taking the next step into manufacturing. And then over this past year, what we do is we promote Imperial Valley, we attend trade shows, and we conduct or put events together, such as the Renewable Energy Summit that was held in March. And that is an event that we host in order to give investors, developers, and people that are decision makers the opportunity to come to Imperial Valley. We give them a reason to come to Imperial Valley and explore the development potential. We have been very successful in attracting or working with developers such as the wind company, the Ocotillo Wind Program, a lot of the solar developers, and geothermal energy developers. And just through this foreign direct investment event, we were able to host a group. I mean, they're literally from all over the world, Macedonia, and hearing all these different countries. Somebody from Amazon was even here yesterday on the tour, and since I was hearing all the different countries, like Macedonia and the person that said, I'm with Amazon, I said, like the jungle? And she's like, no, like .com. But I mean, that's after hearing all these different countries, and so that kind of threw me off. I was like, oh, okay, great. So that's the type of activities that we conduct. Bringing last year in January, we were able to bring representatives from Tata, which is a multinational corporation, and to be able to provide that exposure for Imperial Valley, that's exactly what we're all about, is bringing exposure to Imperial Valley, bringing back resources and knowledge that we learn or from developers, and that's pretty much all I have.
I just have a quick follow-up question. Yeah, go ahead. You know, last time at our city council, we had a meeting with SBDC, and I believe now that, have you partnered up with them, or are they working with you guys closely now, or?
Yes, in addition to the Brawley Chamber and the Calexico Chamber, we've extended the opportunity for them to use our boardroom to be able to meet with clients. So we are working with the SBDC in coordination with Accion. So Accion is based out of our office, and they provide loans to companies in order to make them bankable.
Yeah.
So through Accion and SBDC, we've allowed them to use our facility as a meeting space.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a strategy as to things that the city of El Centro could specifically be doing to partner with IBEDC in a more effective way?
Most definitely. We'd love for you guys to participate in our quarterly economic development roundtables, and that quarterly economic development roundtable really provides an opportunity for the different stakeholders in Imperial Valley to really engage in a dialogue and kind of talk about how we can be working together more closely.
Could we get that on Mr. Duran's calendar so that Mr. Duran and/or a designee could be attending those meetings, please?
Most definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Cynthia, maybe you could speak a little bit about the upcoming ACE. I think that that's something of interest that is something really big for Imperial County.
Most definitely. Talking about the events that bring or highlight what the development potential in Imperial Valley is. ACE is the American Competitive Exchange Conference, and it's the 5th one that's being held. It's sponsored by the U.S. Department of the Economic Development Administration, and we have about 41 countries that are coming this coming week on the 13th, April 13th, and they're starting in Arizona, touring Imperial Valley, and ending in San Diego. But that's tremendous because you have 41 countries coming to, and they're on this tour, and each area gets to promote what their development opportunities are. But you have top-level EDA officials and investors from 41 countries. I believe that we've extended an invitation to you as the mayor of the city, El Centro, and Mr. Efren Silva through the college, but the rest of the city council, if your schedule allows, we'd most definitely extend the invitation.
Yeah, I think, and the reason I knew a little bit about it before is I happened to be in D.C. with Mr. Kelly when we went to EDA, and we were talking about the lineup. And just a tremendous lineup. I don't know if you've seen the lineup, but I mean, we're talking Argentina, Brazil, Canada, France, a lot of South American countries, European countries, and they're all going to be here. And it's such a great opportunity for them to see and be sponsored by the EDA that is really pushing the economic development into our area and our region. So hopefully some good things come of that. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
And maybe, Cynthia, you could have staff maybe send out something to our clerks so we can circulate the times of that event, so maybe the other council members might want to attend.
We can do that for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's, we'll figure that out. Our crime report presentation by, looks like Commander Sawyer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. It's my honor tonight to come before you and bring one more of the applications that the law enforcement community here in the city of El Centro is hoping to bring to our community in light of current events in order to maintain a transparent relationship with the community. Crime Reports is really a data sharing solution that is free of charge to the city. It's part of a larger suite that the City Council approved a while back under the term of Public Engines, which is a Motorola Solutions company. Crime Reports allows our dispatch center to intake the information and all the calls for service that come in through our dispatch center, through 911 calls or the business lines related to law enforcement activities in the city are then published to similar to a Google Map type interface, and I'll show that here in just a few minutes. So our public from any one of the many internet browsers can access crimereports.com and see what's going on within the city and the community in which they live. Presently, we're the only community within the city or within the county that's providing this service. So what our members of the community can do is they can log into crimereports.com, they can see what the police activity is within their area. They also have access to Megan's Law, so sex offenders list and things of that nature that might be of interest to our educators and our parents within the community. They can email information specific to calls to their family and friends. They can post it to their Facebook page. And more importantly to us at the law enforcement community, they can submit tips to us and remain completely anonymous when they do that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. I'm going to walk through a couple of the things that are going on and show how that can apply not only to members of the community, but part of our government as well. So if City Council receives complaints from citizens and they have inquiries, this is something that you can immediately go to. It's readily available, again, through any internet browser or from any iOS, Apple phone, or Google device. So as I mentioned, this is part of a more robust system that we have at the police department. This is what we refer to as the public-facing side. It's endorsed by NBC, ABC. It's been all over the news worldwide. There's been a number of articles produced about it. And really, it's that transparency tool that allows us to communicate with the public and answer questions for them without actually receiving the calls. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of the members of the public to determine what's going on in the community and where our resources are being applied. One of the things that's coming about right now is we're in the beta version of it. We're one of the few agencies that actually has access to this portion of it. And we pushed it out to the public as quickly as we could. There's an old legacy version that doesn't show quite as much, but I'm going to show you the beta version tonight because that's what's coming in the next few weeks, and that'll be the benchmark for the program itself. So if you were to go to crimereports.com tonight, after the city council meeting or at any point, you'd see basically this page here, and it gives you the opportunity to look at the beta version or the legacy version. Both are going to have similar information, it's just the manner in which they're presented. The beta version is a little more robust in terms of the interface and the application and the appearance-wise. So what you're going to see in a second as soon as it loads up is you're going to see little dots along the map. And the map is specifically centered to the city of El Centro as soon as it finds our location here. And as this populates, there's a number of things that are occurring. It's pulling information that we've allowed to be shared to the public. There's certain crimes that we will not present to the public. Those are sex-related crimes, juvenile-related crimes, things of that nature that have some privacy concerns. Additionally, for privacy purposes, you'll see in a second, I'm going to pull up a list of the events that are occurring in the city and show you how to manipulate the events to be able to tailor what you see on your screen to your needs and your neighborhood. But you'll notice that for every location that's put out on the public-facing side, we don't list an actual street address. We list the 100 block or the general location and intersection-wise. So we don't put victim information out there to the public. We don't put names out there to the public. And we certainly don't put any police report information out there. The police report number itself is put out there, so if they have any interest in the case, they can come to the police department and apply for a copy of the police report. And again, they can submit tips to us through the internet interface here.
Could you tell us what some of these symbols are?
I absolutely can. So if you go to the right side list over here, it'll expand everything. And you'll see that each symbol on the map corresponds with what they're referring to here as an RMS code, which means Record Management System. We're going to come out with a frequently asked questions list that we'll be presenting out on our Facebook page and providing to the members of the press in a press release here within the next week that will have some of this information. But really, the symbols dictate or denote which type of activity is occurring. So you'll see the fist is an assault, the star is a burglary, there's some rings for theft and things of that nature. So at a quick glance, you can understand what it is that's occurring there. So if you wanted to see what happened to the assault with a knife, you can click on it to expand it, and you'll see it was actually an assault with a knife that occurred, the case number, the date, and the approximate time, and then the approximate location. And again, we're not posting specific information as to the victim's address or the specific time, because we want to keep it, we want to be as close to privacy, or meet the privacy concerns that the public may have with this information. On the department-facing side, we see much more information, but this is what we're pushing out to the public in an attempt to get them to understand what's going on with their city and, again, how their resources are being spent. You can filter what you see here. Over on the left-hand corner, you'll see the term filter. If you click on that, you can pick the date range. So the public can look at 30 days at a time, and actually I believe the new beta interface, I went back to 6 months at one time, but you really get a densely populated map. So what I would recommend is if you have an event that you're looking at or specific events, you can tailor the map, and I know that one of the things that I believe the council is going to be discussing tonight is a traffic survey. So we'll look at traffic incidents within the city for the last week.
Commander, is that what the cars, would that be like some kind of a traffic incident or? Okay.
So you'll see on the left-hand portion, you can select what type of crimes you want to look at. So if you're just interested in the homicide rate in the city of El Centro, which I'm glad to tell council is extremely low, and it's not on the increase, which is very good for us to report. But if you're interested in what thefts are occurring within your region, if you're a business merchant in the town, if you have a complaint from a citizen at the council level about traffic concerns within a particular area of the city, you can quickly go to this from any computer and determine what those needs and what those calls for service that we're seeing. That's not to say that things aren't going unreported, but for everything that gets reported to the police department, this is updated daily, and well, once or twice a day, it's pushed out to the public. We don't update it in real time because we don't want people to see what's occurring and showing up on our calls to interfere with police or fire activity. But once a day, it's updated so they can go and they can find out if something happens at 7 p.m. tonight, by 7 a.m. the next morning, they'll be able to see the event, be able to get some information. And again, if they have information, they can click submit a tip and submit that to us all confidentially. It all goes through another server. Phone numbers, names, and everything are scrubbed from the information, and then it's sent to us. And it's logged down where we keep track of everything, and then we track what our reaction to those tips are. So if we wanted to see just traffic alone, scroll down. look at traffic here. We wanted to look at a larger date, we can open up the range for more than the last 5 days that it's showing here, to 30 days, 60 days, up to about 6 months on the public-facing side of things. Then the other thing you'll notice is as we zoom in and out to see a bigger portion of the city, the number of incidents up in the left-hand corner for the trend table, that will change according to the view of what you see here. Each one of the cars represents a particular action, whether it be a traffic citation, a traffic stop, or a traffic collision within the city, and that can be found within the list on the right-hand side. So you'll notice what's shown on the screen right now refers most commonly to traffic collisions. We have 3 that are here. One's a hit and run with no injuries. We have an accident with injuries, and then we have a vehicle versus bicyclist. The final disposition of that is not pulled to the public-facing side, but this is generally what how the call is routed to the officers when dispatch center receives the call for service.
Commander, could I ask a question about that? Is that all the information that's available about the accident? Is just what you see there on the right-hand side?
So I'm going to use the traffic accident with injuries, and what you see there is all that's available to the public. So we're not going to provide victim names, we're not going to provide license plate numbers, driver's license numbers, or anything. And again, that's in interest of maintaining people's privacy. On our side of things, on the internal side, we see the entire police report. We have a lot of different features that are available to us. But for the public side of things, this is all the information that they will see. If they have information about the act, so for example, if they have information about the traffic accident here and they actually witnessed it, they can click at the top, submit a tip, and then from the drop-down menu, submit the tip to the proper agency. And it should actually open up another page here. Then they can fill out this form here, and they can get it in English or Spanish, and then submit it to us. What happens when the tips are received by law enforcement, they're received almost instantaneous, just whatever time it takes to travel the internet to the server where it scrubs the information from the person sending it and then sends it to us. Currently, all of our supervisors are assigned to department phones. All of our supervisors will receive the tip, so the on-duty supervisor will immediately receive the tip, whether it be a reckless driver, a drunk driver, a domestic battery, or narcotics crime or crime in progress. They'll immediately see that information, and then they can log down what actions they've taken, and that's all recorded in a format where we can audit it at any time.
Now, the tips are anonymous, or how can they be tracked?
No, not by us, and actually not by the company at all. So even for purposes of court, if we were to be subpoenaed, we can print out a log of the tips and correspondence. So what the system allows us to do is we can reply to the tipster and ask for additional information. And the way it looks on our side of things is we see tipster, and the person that we're replying to sees officer. No names are mentioned, no telephone numbers are mentioned, or anything like that. They've had cases where Public Engines and now Motorola Solutions, the company that owns them, have been subpoenaed in court where the defense has been trying to find out the name of the anonymous tipster. And they've came in, and it's been time and time upheld in court that that information is completely anonymous. They don't keep a record of that. It's scrubbed once it hits their server. The only thing that they allow us to do is bounce messages back and forth. And then what we can do is we can print out a log of what tips we've received related to that and what our actions are, and we can bring that to court for court purposes. But the name and the identity of the person and the phone number involved is never recorded.
What about IP address?
IP address is not recorded either, not for the tipster, no. Okay. So if we go back to the crime report page itself, if you wanted to share an event, so if you wanted to share this traffic accident with injuries with a friend, you can click on share. You can choose how you share it, whether it be Twitter or Facebook, or you can cut and paste the URL into an email and forward it to a friend so they can see the event themselves.
It looked on the tip form that one of the things you could talk about or report had to do with animals. Do we have any kind of animal control information here?
So let me bring the page back up. I
Yes,
apologize for
please.
Closing that off. So this is what they'll see, and these are the options and the fields that they can
Yeah, so
provide.
see dogs or animals down there between suspects' clothing and weapons.
Correct.
So are we integrating part of the animal control reporting into this or not?
So if the call was a vicious animal or a dog bite, for example, and they wanted to report a tip for that about maybe who the potential dog owner was or what they'd seen, they can
Okay.
absolutely do that. And then that information will be filtered, again, through all of our supervisors. And the supervisor in charge of animal control is Sergeant Benias currently. He would receive this and then he would forward that to his personnel. And then that gets tracked on what actions have been taken from there in our internal side of the system.
But we're not going to see a pin drop on the map for animal control calls?
Not from the tip, but the call itself, yes, should be
really?
located there. Depending on the filters, and I can confirm that with you at a later time. I can take a look right now, but most of our calls for service are shared with the public. They're just the privacy issues like the sex crimes and juvenile crimes.
Because I know that all of us get calls about all kinds of stuff, and more recently, I don't know if because of the wind and dogs getting out or what, but there have been a lot of calls with regard to animals, and we were having a little bit of an issue with the phone system at police department for a while, and they're having trouble getting through and then having to leave messages for animal control.
We can quickly look and see what's available for us to take a look at. So if we click on the filter on the page here, we can go down and determine if animals, oops, I selected all, if animals are actually part of the reporting process here. And I believe it's a quality of life issue because we're limited to what the company provides us as far as these drop-down menus.
Sure.
If we look at quality of life, and again, I could confirm that for the council at a later date.
Or,
But
maybe that would just be a lot more information that we need, but again, I think it's an issue that folks are concerned about.
Commander, again, very impressive, and the fact that our department's one of the first departments to implement such a great initiative. In terms of the data that's collected and information that is shared, what is your vision in terms of what we do with this data? Is it used, or do you have staff meetings internally to say, okay, hey, maybe we need to do a special detail here, or maybe we should consider a stop sign in this area? Or what is kind of your vision as far as what we're going to do with this data, and how can we share it not only with the community but with other departments internally in terms of assigning or putting resources in place?
it's a great question. So from the public-facing side, we're merely pushing this information out to share it with the public so they can see what's occurring in their neighborhood. In a future release, they're going to have the option to subscribe to information. They can actually log in, create a username under their email address and everything else, and then they can subscribe to alerts within their neighborhood. So if a crime happens within their neighborhood, they'll receive an email alert or a text alert, whatever they choose to receive. That's available in the legacy side of things. In the beta version, they're moving that into it, moving that option into it. So once you've logged in, you can actually receive that up-to-date information within a 24-hour period of what's occurring in your neighborhood. On the non-public side, or what we use here at the police department, we have a much more robust system. So one of the things that we're doing right now is a DUI campaign through the Office of Traffic Safety. So when we're preparing DUI enforcement details, which we have roving patrols that happen quite frequently, what we encourage our supervisors to do is go into the department-facing side where we can actually see all the specifics about it, and we can have that will allow us to chart things in pie charts, bar charts. On the map, we can determine where our DUI-related accidents are occurring, where our DUI-related enforcement's occurring, what days of the week, what time frame, and we can actually create a heat map within the city and by date and time to determine when our best deployment times are. Wow. So we're starting to use it in that manner, but again, it's something that we've just started rolling out, so there's definitely potential for that. We've used it quite a bit on reporting incidents to the city council on the skate park when that first came out. We've actually drawn a map around the skate park where just incidents related to that are reported to us. We do that by zone within the city for area of responsibility. And in one of the upcoming releases, we'll actually be able to draw it around schools or any other point of interest. Right now, again, we're in the transition phase. Our goal is to be able to use this to help us better determine where to deploy our resources and where we're lacking on resources to be able to report that back to the council as well.
And if I may, just a quick follow-up question is, I know that what I heard was that there will be a press release and some campaign behind it or some marketing behind it. I think you guys did an excellent job when you did the active shooter presentation and training. I don't know, do you have that kind of same vision as far as maybe having some sort of town hall meeting and maybe inviting the public to kind of demo it, maybe here at City Hall, or is that maybe on the radar?
We would certainly be willing to do that. Currently, what we plan on doing is putting out a press release and then inviting members of the media to come to the station in our roll call room, we have a large projection-type TV and screen that we can put crime reports up on, and we can actually walk through a live presentation with members of the media, answer their questions, and hopefully get some airtime and get some publication out of this. And then, again, on our Facebook side. But we'd absolutely entertain any opportunity to meet with the public and kind of share this. And we plan to push this as well as our other social media things on events that we held, like Coffee with a Cop and things of that nature.
Great. Excellent work, Commander.
Thank you. Good job.
Mr. Garcia, you have anything?
It looks like a great program. It looks like it's going to provide a good tool for people to be able to look what's going on in their neighborhood, especially once the legacy part goes online in the beta, where they can actually get notification. That really piqued my interest. Thank you.
No? I think it's great. I think anytime we can get the public more engaged with what's going on in our city, I think it's definitely going to be a good tool. Maybe you'd like to take this opportunity to speak a little bit about our newest member.
So recently, we've reported that K-9 Tico was not able to meet some of our stringent training requirements. He's been since adopted by the Carson City, our Carson, Nevada Sheriff Department.
Hanging out in the casinos.
Yes, so he has kind of a plush job, if you will, now. And really what it boiled down to is our K-9 unit, as you know, is a newly formed division within the agency. So we don't have the same level of expertise as some of the other agencies do, and we really have some pretty stringent requirements. We like to think that we've really raised the bar on what we expect out of our animals and our handlers and the unit itself, just like we do the other members of our departments and divisions within the city. So with that in mind, we had a couple incidents that caused us to rethink our training methods, and then when we deployed TICO in that manner, he just wasn't able to meet the standards that we really kind of set for ourselves, and we weren't able to work through some of those issues internally or with outside trainers. So we've since selected Max as our new K-9. He's a Belgian Malinois. He's 3 years old. He will be going to a 8-week academy with Officer Thompson as his handler. That'll occur Monday of next week, and he should be graduating the academy in June, and we'd be glad to bring him back and introduce him to City Council and to the members of the public. You can look forward to seeing me at some of our public events, such as Coffee with a Cop and a lot of our community outreach programs as soon as he gets back.
Excellent. Good. All right, any other questions? Thank you, Commander.
for your opportunity.
Great work, Chief.
Okay. Okay, we're moving on to our consent agenda. Consent items are approved by motion. Council members or members of the public may pull any item to be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. I have a request to pull items 11 and 12. Is there a motion to approve items 7 through 10 and,
I think we're pulling 14.
are we pulling 14?
Was it 14 that you were going to recuse yourself?
No, it's 12.
No, 12 is the HVAC. 14 is the permit parking.
Oh, okay.
I was going off of this.
Yeah, you guys told me 12.
This is, okay, the agenda that I printed out then, is that, no, it's 14,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, 14.
Sorry, Dan, I guess we are pulling item number 14 also.
It's 11, 12, and 14.
11, 12, and 14, so,
14 would be the permit, the poplar? Is that?
correct,
Okay.
yes.
Just give me a minute, please.
There's a
Can vote.
motion by Walker. Second by Cardenas for items 7 through 10, 13, and 15. Please ballot. Passes 5-0. We'll go back to item number 11. I think both of you guys are pulling.
No, I
Okay.
pulled 12.
12? Okay, Mr.
Yeah,
Cardenas?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just in regards to some very, very minor follow-up, Mr. Terry, and I appreciate you being ready here. Just in regards to the LTA funds, and again, very minor inquiry. I know that we're the goal is to set this money aside and then or identify or pursue some sort of funding source to finish this project, or can you maybe just share a little bit
That's right.
background?
The purpose of this project is to identify the area. Basically, it's this area in the city. The other areas are newer housing areas that have lighting, adequate lighting, and so we're looking to go back in and identify construction projects and the amount, cost estimates and everything, and then seek funding when we can to do projects and improve lighting in these areas that need it.
Yeah, okay. And then the only other minor inquiry was in regards to just a timeline. I mean, when would you expect, I know we set this money aside, or potentially set it aside, and then do we have kind of a timeline on when we can revisit this issue again, or?
Well, I believe the project would probably take about 3 to 6 months for the engineering firm to do the work, and then we'll have that and cost estimate to do these projects, and as we get funding, we'll do them, and to prioritize them as well.
Yeah, I think what's really exciting is this is one of those things that kind of came out of the downtown street lighting, and I would say that Terry and his group, Ms. Hagan and his group have been incredibly successful with regard to these master plans where we then can set priorities, whether it's for sidewalks or street improvements. And so very much welcome a citywide opportunity to look at the lighting. Because I know that, for example, I live in a really old area of El Centro, and it's very, very dark in that neighborhood, and we would welcome opportunity to have more street lighting there.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the Community Enhancements Task Force support on this. And I want to be real careful because I don't think this is on the agenda. And Mr. Childers, please stop me if I'm out of line here. But because I did want to kind of get a better understanding of when we were going to explore downtown lighting. I know that AT&T had given us a $250,000 mitigation opportunity there. So, and again, I know, I don't even know if I can speak to it in regards to the LTA project, but do we have an update on when we're going to look at downtown? And again, is it appropriate?
Abraham, could you give them?
Okay.
And there's two parts of that. There's a grant, and then there's also the offsite mitigation from AT&T, but.
So, yeah, exactly. Just to follow. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, we have an HSIP Highway Safety Improvement Program grant that has funded the design and construction for the downtown lighting. That goes from 4th to 8th, and we're talking about some type of pedestrian lighting. It'll be not your typical street light that you see on residential. It'll be something more cosmetic, kind of in line with Project Shape and the idea of downtown lighting. That's underway. Design is probably close to 90% at this point. We're probably going to be rolling out for construction sometime in the fall. So sometime this summer, we'll come back to approve plans and specs for that. Along those same lines, and as a follow-up to State Street, we're planning on coming back to council probably in the next meeting or the following to do a contract amendment with our current designer to extend and design State Street as well, and take advantage of that AT&T funding. The consultant's already kind of brainstorming on it and how to go about it, and I think we have a plan of attack, but we'll be coming back to amend our existing contract to include that as well.
Great.
So it's coming up pretty quick.
Abraham, a follow-up question on that, and I'm glad you mentioned the amendment to the original contract. Can we see what it would also cost to have them also include Broadway, so that we would at least have that the mapping and everything set, so that if we do come up with funding next year or the following year, that we've already got everything ready to match everything to State Street and Main Street?
Sure, I can come up with a cost on that.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
No, thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Campos.
Make a motion for
Yeah.
item number 11.
I can motion verbally or just whatever she needs me to do.
Dan, did you want to take 11 motion separately, or there it is? Motion
Should
by
be able
Cardenas.
to
I'm
vote.
sorry? What's that?
You can vote electronically.
Okay. Motion by Cardenas, second by Walker, passes 5-0. Item number 12, Ms. Walker?
Yes, thank you. I asked Mr. Duran if he could please address the fact that, what's the capital plan look like for the city? I mean, this is an opportunity where, or maybe not an opportunity, maybe a challenge, where all of the HVACs need to be replaced at the same time, $175,000. And so if you could talk, Mr. Duran, just a little bit about how do we budget in advance or set aside funding in advance? Is there some kind of a capital plan where we know things are going to have to be replaced on within a certain time frame?
Well, this is specific to the HVACs, and Mr. Hagan's Division of Facilities handles that. We do not rotate out, like example, let's take something smaller, a computer, we try to go every 3 years, but we really don't replace those equipment until we know they need to be replaced. And for air conditioners, quite frankly, we have the same air conditioners that were in there 20 years ago. So we don't replace that many air conditioning units, but we budget within the reserve equipment replacement funds. We have about $2 million in there to cover a failure like this, because we don't expect our air conditioning units to fail every 3 to 5 years. We get a lot of years out of it. So we don't just swap them out. We repair them, we repair them, we repair them. And there is a point, as with the Harrison facility, which has the original air conditioning units in it from when it was built, it was time to swap them out. And we'll also see an energy savings on that. I think, as you recall, a number of years ago, we swapped out the air conditioning unit for the other two buildings in this facility. Those were almost 25-year-old air conditioning units. So rather than trying to anticipate actually getting rid of good equipment, we fund enough in there to cover pretty much most of our items that are failing. And fortunately, our facility staff particularly stay far enough ahead of it. They say, you know what, we're coming to summer. This one's not going to make this next summer. So they're being evaluated. Mr. Hagan's group also evaluates our vehicles the same way. We try to hold on to them until just about when they're ready to go, because we don't have, well, actually no one has that luxury of just swapping out serviceable vehicles. I think you've seen that. We've even moved vehicles from a higher use to a lower use. And most recently, you see we got rid of a number of vehicles that finally at the end of their life, and you did that 2 meetings ago. So that is our capital approach to large equipment like that.
And I think for council, what it's important for us to know is that there's a plan to look at these things before it becomes an emergency. Because if these had failed during the middle of, Ms. Arena's summer recreation program with 5,000 kids in the gym or something, that would be a bit of a challenge. So I'm very pleased to see that there's a proactive approach to evaluating the equipment before it reaches that critical stage. So with that explanation, I'd go ahead and move approval of this item.
Could I have,
Oh,
I have a
sorry.
follow-up question, if I may, Councilmember Walker? In regards to, I did see the timeline, and I know that the completion date would be May 31st, and to kind of piggyback a little bit on Councilmember Walker's, and considering Murphy's Law as well, I mean, in the event that that project wasn't complete, is there any Park and Rec's impact in terms of our rec activities where that gym won't be used, or is there a plan B, or Marcel, I don't know if you have any concerns with that timeline, because it does have the completion date of May 31st, and I just don't know in the event of an issue if that would impact any of our Parks and Recs, summer Parks and Recs programs.
We anticipate starting our summer programs in mid-June. So it is a very aggressive timeline, but at the same time, is not a long time frame for the contractor to complete the work. It's about 21 days. We are aggressive, but, obviously due to the timing to prepare, the specifications and everything that takes time, obviously setting aside the funding. But we're hopeful that we can reach that goal. We obviously have indicated to Mr. Sanders, who's working with us, that we need to have that pretty much done as early as the first week in June.
And then, this is maybe a follow-up question, and I may have to direct it to Mr. Duran, and I'm going way in advance, but I was looking at the budget workshop backup material, and it actually, and I don't know if I'm reading this correctly, but it has allocated $217,000 for the AC unit replacement, and what we have before us is a $175,000 cost. So there's about a $42,000 difference. So could I maybe get an explanation on why in the budget workshop it shows $217,000, and in the action before us it shows anywhere from $150,000 to $175,000?
I'll let Ms. Piedra.
Sure. We have been, again, when we first initially approached finance about this, we thought it was going to be a little over $200,000. but in meeting with Mr. Sanders, and of course, it could potentially be the 200,000. We're obviously basing it on Mr. Sanders' obviously input based on the units that we have. You really won't know the final number until you get your bids. And so until we get that, we're hopeful that it's going to be under the 200,000. Because in addition to this, we also have to do labor compliance monitoring because it is a prevailing wage job. So we do add that on top of that. Right now, like I said, we're hoping that with the 175,000 that we're asking for, that we're able to do the AC work and also do the necessary compliance monitoring for labor.
So once we would review the bids when they come back and if they were
Exactly.
higher than.
Yes, but we're hopeful that they're going to be under the 200,000.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, there's a motion by Walker, second by Silva. Please ballot. Passes 5-0. Okay, we have item number 14. I think Mr. Garcia is going to recuse himself from that, so we'll give him a second to step out. Did you pull 14? Or did you pull 14?
He pulled 14 so that he could recuse himself. I have a clarifying or a question or two.
Mr. Hagan?
Was there a specific
Well,
question on
actually-
this, or you wanted the full
Well,
presentation?
part of it was the recusal because he lives close by, but has the hospital expressed, or employees that work out of the homes owned by the hospital, have they expressed an interest in moving this forward? Has it become a problem along Poplar?
I know we talked with and polled the people, the homes, but the homes that are owned by the hospital, I don't know.
Yeah, there was a survey that we did, just on the residents on that drive. It included some of the residents that are being utilized by the hospital.
Right.
We obviously did not show the results of those because it's kind of it is a condition on the hospital itself, and those homes being an extension of the hospital, we didn't want to bias it that way. But by accident, we did pull some of them, not shown here, and they were supportive of the permit. But then again, we're just interviewing employees or whatnot. So for surveys purposes, we only are showing, I think there was 10 properties that are residential and occupied by residents. So that's the focus of the survey.
So how are we going to work then with the hospital to ensure that the employees are given the stickers for that area?
From speaking this is a couple months back on hospital staff, they're having their own internal program and monitoring that. Their employees are prohibited from basically parking in that area.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions? Okay. Motion by Walker. Second by Cardenas. Please ballot.
Carries 4-0.
4-0 with one
One
absent.
abstain.
Or one recusal?
I'll get it.
Okay.
Mr. Durst.
Okay, as we wait for Mr. Garcia to come in, we'll move on to item number 16, public hearing to consider the acceptance of the annual progress report for 2013 through 2021 housing element of the general plan of the period of January 1, 2015 through December 31st of 2015. Ms. Villacana.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. I just have a couple of slides. As you may recall, every year we submit our annual report to the Housing and Community Development Department, and I just have a couple of slides to report our accomplishments during 2015. As you can see, during the year 2015, there were 100 building permits issued for new housing construction. 84 of those units were the town center development project, and 16 of those were single-family residential. So compared to 2014, during 2014, we had 46 building permits issued. In 2015, we've had 100. In relationship to the meeting of our regional housing needs allocation, as you can see, we are still short on our number of 1924 units, 1,924 units. But, you know, this year we were able to deduct 100. So our goal, our remaining goal right now is 1,778 units. Now, also during 2015, we did a couple of text amendments, as you may recall. One of them was to eliminate the application fee for reasonable accommodation applications, and that was approved by council. So attached to the staff report is the annual report that we're requesting approval to submit to the Housing Community Development Department.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on item number 16? Seeing none, we'll return back to council. And is there a motion to support?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind. Norma, also, in addition to the fees that you mentioned last year when we had those meetings with the developers and in an attempt to try to energize housing development, we also had committed to make additional revisions to our ordinance and perhaps looking at reduction of lot sizes and the expansion of the coverage areas and other provisions that we thought would facilitate housing development in El Centro. And as I recall from the developers, they felt that those kinds of incentives would motivate new housing starts in El Centro. Where are we at with the implementation of those phases?
That's on our to-do list. We want to get some of the, within the next few meetings, you're going to be getting a lot of updates to ordinances, like the telecommunication ordinances, animal control, and so forth. So that we're hoping to start that within the next month or so, regarding the reduction of size lots and also looking at maybe the water capacity fees and so forth. Yeah, so it's going to be coming to you.
We're also going to look at the retention basin.
And retention basins. We're looking at other ways to provide retention basin within development projects, not necessarily underground, but maybe make it more linear, so we're looking at other options too.
Okay. Yeah. So 2 to 3 months you anticipate?
I would say by the end of the summer.
Okay, great. Thank you, Norma.
Any other questions from council? Okay. Let's bring that up. Yeah, I closed the public hearing, brought it back to council. Is there a motion to support the recommendation? I guess we're waiting for the screen. This would be acceptance of the annual element progress report on implementation of the City of El Centro housing element covering the period of January 1, 2015 to December 31st, 2015. There's a motion by Silva, second by Garcia. All's in favor? Passes 5-0. Item number 17, project consists of a text amendment to Division 8, Communication Facilities Regulations, Section 29-255 through 29-270, amending regulations for telecommunication facilities within the City of El Centro pursuant to Sections 15061, 15301, and 15302 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. It determined that this project is exempt from formal environmental review. Ms. Norma Villacana.
Okay. Good evening again, Mayor and council members. This text amendment is being proposed in regards to a couple of legislative acts that have been approved, not only by the state, but also the federal government. And with the state, it's under Government Code Section 65850.6, and then also under the 2012 Middle Class Act. So basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the process easier, and that's the intent of these acts. So it basically impacts the entitlement process for telecommunication facilities. It only impacts for projects that require co-location. So typically, right now, Under our existing procedures, for any co-location for a telecommunication tower, we would require a conditional use permit. And the fee for the conditional use permit is $2,250, and it would require a public hearing. And the process will take approximately 3 months. Under the new law, basically, it would be a discretionary review, it would be a site plan review, and the fee would be $620. It would not require a site plan review, and the timing will be approximately 1 month. So we're making the process easier, and this is under state and federal law. The project was presented to the Planning Commission back in February, and they did recommend approval of the changes to the text amendment. And if you recall, this was one of the issues with AT&T, so.
Do you have any staffing concerns as far as meeting that 30-day timeline? I know it appears it went from 90 days to 30 days, so do you think we're okay as far as staffing?
We're okay because right now, under our site plan review, our time is 30 days. So we always meet that deadline.
As far as the fiscal impact, I know it's significant. I mean, it's, I believe, a third of the cost or less than a third of the cost. I mean, typically, what are we looking at as far as fees that are generated from these types of requests? I mean, do we have a significant fiscal impact now that the fee's been lowered substantially?
Not necessarily. The CUP cost of $2,200 is, a lot of that cost went to legal noticing.
Oh.
We have to publish in the paper and the residents and so forth. So a lot of that cost has been eliminated by the site plan review.
And I guess one last question, if I may, and just in terms of the ordinance, what type of timeline are we supposed to be in compliance with this? Are we kind of ahead of the curve, or?
Actually, we're behind of the curve.
We're
This is
behind.
something that back in 2012 and 2014, I believe. So we're behind in the curve.
Okay.
So we're just trying to clean up our ordinance. Even though we've been treating the projects under the new law.
Any other questions?
Yes. So Norma, so the new law is going to require us to basically make this an administrative process, and
Right,
it's not going to come
instead.
to the council.
Right.
But are we going to have any ability to dictate where in the city these towers should go, or what's the scope of authority that we have over location?
Okay, for co-locations, it would be wherever a tower has been previously approved. So we're talking about co-locations. For new towers, that would still have to go through the CUP process.
Okay.
So that would be discretionary.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on this issue or this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and return to council. Look for a motion for ordinance number 16-03,
03.
an ordinance of the City Council of the City of El Centro repealing Chapter 29, Article 4, Division 8, entitled Communication Facilities, and reenacting Chapter 29, Article 4, Division 8 of the City Code for compliance with Section 6409A of the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012, which is referred to as the Spectrum Act. Waive reading and approve on waive reading and approve as first reading, and authorize city clerk to place on the next agenda for second reading and adoption. There's a motion by Walker, second by Silva. Please ballot, passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to item number 18, approval of the draft 2016-17 CDBG Annual Action Plan, presentation by Piedra.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. This item is actually not a new item per se. We did have and provided a summary of the projects and programs that were submitted for consideration for the 2016-17 CDBG program year, what we have is a requirement by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is to provide an annual action plan that includes those programs and projects that the city is recommending that receive funding for the current program year, which in this case starts July 1, 2016. We did receive our notice from HUD that we are receiving from our allocation $484,136, and there is some program income funding that we have available to us, and some money that was left over from the current, that we anticipate having left over from this existing program year we're operating. So we anticipate having $732,522. I just have a brief PowerPoint kind of highlighting the projects and programs that are being recommended for funding during this program year. So just quick summary, for the public services, we only have $77,334 available. For the other eligible projects, which basically fund our, public infrastructure, public facility, housing activities, we have $655,148 that can be allocated for those categories. So in total, we have $732,522. The specific programs that we are setting aside funds for, and of course, this is based on the recommendations and direction that we received at the council meeting of February the 2nd. We are setting aside for Women Haven for 2 of their programs, the transitional housing. We're setting aside $3,331 for the emergency shelter that Women Haven operates, $330,000 for Women Haven. For Catholic Charities, $5,330,000, and for
I think you're having a hard time with
I
that
think
number.
I am. It's the threes.
5,330.
We want you to do our budget.
I know. The senior nutrition program, setting aside $16,133, and for fair housing, which is a required activity, $47,250. So that pretty much allocates the full amount for public
You're not
services.
used to dealing with small numbers.
I know,
You're used to
huh?
dealing with
I'm used to
100,000.
dealing with the big ones. For the public facilities infrastructure, of course, we're setting aside funding for the Aquatic Center project, setting aside $390,698, and funding the code enforcement program, $69,300. For the housing activities, we're doing $5,000 for lead-based paint abatement, $5,000 for asbestos, $10,000 for off-site improvements to support housing rehab activities, $100,000 for our housing rehab program, and then the $10,000 for the grid alternative solar program that was submitted for consideration. So that sets aside $130,000. And for planning and administration, $65,150. So that pretty much allocates the full amount that we anticipate receiving. This is a public hearing, so there's any comments pertaining. We do have a 30-day comment period that we need to follow. This plan needs to be submitted to HUD by May 15th of this year, so we're at this time starting that public review process.
So quick follow-up question.
Yeah, questions from council, Mr. Cardenas?
Just a general question, and I know I probably could have asked you off-site, but in regards to some of the input from community development needs, does our community enhancement task force chime in on those needs at all, or do we ask for their input in terms of what they believe may be important projects for our community? Is that a common practice at all, or do you see any benefit to that?
I think it's really staff-driven
Is it-
with regard to the infrastructure projects. I think that a lot of what we talk about, though, with the Community Enhancement Committee covers a wide range of projects, including the street lighting project that came to us this evening. So there's probably things that have percolated through staff, and I think that because the funding is so limited, we really have to look at that priority project or projects as opposed to having the luxury of a lot of money, what we could otherwise allocate the funding to.
Yeah, and I was just kind of piggybacking on the fact that, we do have a public hearing and we do ask
Right.
for solicitation from the public. I just didn't know if it'd be any benefit for the community task force or community enhancement task force to be involved? Just a general question.
Yeah, I think there's some overlap. I think, and Marcella and her staff are part of that task force, so there is some overlap there. Any other questions from council? Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on item number 18? I have no speaker slips and nobody, so I'll return back to council. And let's see. Look for motion to approve. It looks like we have a motion by Walker, second by Silva. Please ballot. Passes 5-0. I'm sorry, Diane, was that resolution 16-0?
12.
12 or 16-12?
1612.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella.
I'd like to point out, Mr. Mayor, you were right on time, 7:30.
Ah, I like that.
Good job.
Yeah. Don't jinx me.
I know, really, sorry.
Letitia hasn't come up here yet. Okay, so item number 19, resolution of the City Council, City of El Centro supporting safe routes to school programs. Marcella.
Yes, good evening again. This is actually a request that was made also on behalf of the Imperial County Public Health Department. They've been working on a Safe Routes to School program and have been meeting with different members of the community, the schools, of course, government entities to implement and also obviously undertake activities which support the Safe Routes to School program. As you know, from a city standpoint, we obviously strive hard to provide activities and also provide infrastructure improvements that encourage kids, children, obviously our community, to walk or ride their bikes to school. And so at this time, what we're presenting to you is a resolution that supports this program. Mr. Jorge Torres from the Imperial County Public Health Department would like to provide some comments with respect to their efforts. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him so that he can speak and address the council on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and honorable council members. My name is Jorge Torres. I'm from the Imperial County Public Health Department, and I represent the Nutrition Education and Obesity Prevention Branch. I have been working with the Parks and Recreation and Community Development departments for the City of El Centro on a Safe Routes to School resolution. The NEOP, the Nutrition Education and Obesity Prevention Program, focuses on creating healthy eating and active living environments for different cities in our county using different obesity-related strategies. One of the strategies that we work with is the Safe Routes to School component. Safe Routes to School programs are an opportunity to make walking and bicycling to school safer and more accessible for children, including those with disabilities, and to increase the number of children who choose to walk and bicycle. The Safe Routes to School programs can enhance children's health and well-being, ease traffic congestion near the school, and improve air quality and improve community members' overall quality of life. So the Safe Routes to School program is a program composed of different stakeholders from the community. Those stakeholders can be from law enforcement, public health, parents, students, school board members, and public works, and the planning departments. So the group will get together and work on different ways to encourage and come up with different strategies for children to walk and bike to school. The expected outcomes of having a Safe Routes to School program is to have walking and biking become the norm. So now the norm is to have give a ride to your children in the morning, when before the norm was to walk to school if you live nearby. We also want to identify problem areas in the city. So maybe children are not walking to school because maybe there's a gang related areas, or maybe there's no sidewalks, or maybe there's a dog. So we want to identify those different areas and work with those stakeholders to work with those different problem areas. We want to have annual events that encourage walking and biking. We have the Walk to School Day in October and the Bike to School Day in May, which encourages children to walk and bike. It's just a reminder of why it's important to walk and bike to school and why it's really fun. We want to create policies that encourage and support active living. So we want to have the schools support children walking and biking to school. And long-term, our overall goal is to decrease obesity rates for the city of El Centro. So the reason why public health focuses on safe routes to school is because based on the recommendations for physical activity guidelines for Americans, adolescents should be doing at least 60 minutes of physical activity each day. Unfortunately, only 19% of children or teens in Imperial County were physically active at least 1 hour or more. 45% of 5th, 7th, and 9th grade students in El Centro are overweight or obese, and 74% of Imperial County adults are overweight or obese, compared to 60% of Californians. The lack of physical activity plays a leading role in rising rates of obesity. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with nutrition. Physical activity plays a key component, starting from early on and when you're in school, learning that walking and biking should be something that you should include in your daily lives will be really important and beneficial to decrease those obesity rates. Our next steps is include reaching out to school districts here in the city of El Centro and seeing if we could establish a Safe Routes to School program for either a school or a district-wide. Right now, we're working with Harding Elementary on an event that they're going to have next month for Bike Month. And we're working with Central Union High School with their safety committee on establishing a Safe Routes to School program for their school. So having the city of El Centro support the resolution will open doors for our program and allow us to work with more schools and make it more accessible to us to establish these programs. For these reasons, I ask the city of El Centro to consider adopting the proposed Safe Routes to School resolutions. Thank you for your time.
Any questions?
Yes.
Walker?
And I submitted my question in advance, and Ms. Villacana, I really appreciate your response, but I'm still very confused because the Imperial County Transportation Commission, which is made up of the County of Imperial, a representative from each of the 7 incorporated cities, and the Imperial Irrigation District, just adopted a regional master plan for safe routes to school. So we now have, for every school district and each individual school site, a plan of action with regard to safe routes to school. So I'm trying to figure out, and it talks about funding and implementation, transportation demand, future evaluation, how to encourage kids for getting to school, programs like bicycle rodeos, pedestrian bicycle safety skills. I mean, we've spent a boatload of money collectively to get the regional master plan completed, which is also site-specific. So I'm trying to figure out how what the public health department is doing either supports or moves forward the regional master plan as opposed to, just going back and redoing work that's already been done.
So my understanding is that the regional master plan, it focuses on the problem areas in each specific city. And what the resolution, the difference from the resolution is, it's supporting the Safe Routes to School programs to take place at each school or each school district. So we want to establish the Safe Routes to School program, but the master plan identifies where those areas are. So the Safe Routes to School program will look at the details that are in the master plan and work to advance and solve those problem areas identified in the Safe Routes to School master plan.
So can you assure me that we're not going to be duplicating efforts with regard to what's already been done? I mean, I think that ideally what we would like to see happen is collaboration between the Public Health Department and the school district with the City of El Centro's support rather, to move the ideas in the regional master plan forward, as opposed to, again, studying the issue, coming up with ideas and moving those forward. We already know some really great things that we can jump on today. And so when I looked at the funding, was this the one that had some funding tied to it? $150,000 to develop a plan, which, again, I'm not clear on what else we need to study. It seems to me we have the plan. Ms. Villacana, Yeah, and again, I appreciate your response, but after going back and looking at the master plan, which is like 126 pages long, there's a boatload of information here, and we just need to move forward.
It is a lot of information. When we applied for the grant, it was back in 2014. At that time, we didn't have a safe route to school plan.
Right.
The intent of our plan will be to identify all areas within the city of El Centro, not only school-specific sites, but as you know, there's a lot of gaps within our city. North Imperial Avenue, that's not necessarily a route to school that kids will take, but there's still some gaps that need to be identified. So once we have this plan in place, we'll have a priority list as to projects that need to be completed. And as we get funding or maybe funding opportunities, we have a project, we have a segment to seek those funds for. And a lot of the funding opportunities out there require you to have a site or something ready to go, a priority list, a plan. And we're hoping with this plan, we're gonna get to that point. The county plan is really good, but it only identifies area near the schools, near the schools.
Okay, so we can use this at least, the master plan that's been adopted, we can use that at least to supplement the information that you're gonna need?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, and then what about our sidewalk priority list that, you know, we already know, we've already done some of the work necessary to identify where our gaps are and where our priorities are with regard to sidewalks. So how do we, again,
How to combine everything?
combine it so that we're not reinventing the wheel all the time? Not all the time.
Well,
How do we take the existing information and data that we already have and combine it into a useful source of information to move projects forward?
Right. From my understanding right now, what we have, and maybe Mr. Campos or Mr. Hagan can chime in, is the plan that we have right now is a lot of it focuses on CDBG project areas. And this plan will be citywide. And so typically when we get CDBG funding available, okay, we know these areas need sidewalk improvements or some type of improvement. But with this plan, we're gonna have, I think, a better opportunity to apply for grant funding, and which not necessarily has to be within the CDBG area. It could be on North Imperial Avenue, Euclid. There's a lot of challenges too, not only providing sidewalk, but also obtaining the right-of-way. And those things can be identified within the plan, so we'll know which projects are ready to go right away and which ones have some right-of-way issues. And maybe Mr. Campos can.
Norma, just a quick question while Abraham's coming up. It sounds like, and I kind of had a few of the concerns that Cheryl had. Would you characterize this as kind of filling in the gaps of the master plan that the county passed? That there's areas that the county plan doesn't address, and this, what we're looking at here, is supposed to address those gaps and fill it all in?
Yes, and again, I think, and I haven't completely finished my review of the county plan, but from what I've seen, it focuses on areas near schools. We want to focus on the entire city, which may not be near a school, but needs some kind of facility.
All right. Abraham?
Sure. Good evening. I understand the confusion. There's quite a bit of plans that kind of overlap and touch pieces of it. I think this program would fill in and kind of tie and everything together. Even starting with our bicycle master plan, you can think, well, we're repeating some of this stuff. It's kind of the nuances with the grants for the bicycle master plan. On the grant was limited to points of employment, like destinations from one place to another, and not into really activities. So we couldn't have routes shown in the plan for Buckland Park, for example. So a lot of people do riding. Active transportation is about riding, but that plan focused on destination points. So there's gaps in it. On the looking at the regional plan. I was able to go attend some of the workshops and speak to the consultant as they were looking at the development of the plan. They were focusing 1 to 2 projects per school, although there's many times that schools said we need more projects. That's not a part of the scope, so they focus on 1 or 2. You'll go through the plan in the city of El Centro. You'll see 1 fully developed concept per school, then 1 concept, and then they just talk about the general kind of, we wish this or that. So it's limited in that aspect. It's regional. It's a great tool that the ICTC went through. It'll allow the region to compete for the ATP and Safe Routes to School, which has been rolled into ATP now. And other agencies, what I've seen do is, because to increase their likelihood of being funded, is they'll reference a plan that's gone through the public scrutiny, that has public input. And they'll go down the list, basically. And the more commitment that you show and progress, the more likely you're able to get the funding. So these documents require a lot of effort. Unfortunately, the people reviewing and the folks making the grants applications and guidelines love this stuff. They love paper. They love a plan. They want to show commitment from the agencies, and maybe that's why the departments of Imperial County Public Health is here. The more support you can get for something and public input, and the more weight, stack of paper they can put to them, says that you're ready to go, you're shovel ready, and you get funded. Now, what the ATP or the regional ICT document lacks is local emphasis. It's a big compilation of multiple agencies. However, this other plan that we're proposing is not only it'll include bikes and pedestrians and schools. It's a bigger project and programs. So and that's focused on El Centro. The other one is focused on the region. So between all of them, you get a better picture of active transportation, and it's confusing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shova, did you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a very practical question, Norma or Abraham. So I remember making a comment here at the council meeting not that long ago where I noted that that El Centro was not a very bike-friendly community because my wife and I decided to spend our day doing our errands and spending the day on the bicycle, and we couldn't find a place to park our bikes and secure our bikes, and we had to use poles and trees and other things just to be able to secure our bikes. And a lot of those were commercial areas, the pharmacy and restaurants. We couldn't find a restaurant that would accommodate, some space for bicycles. So which of these plans, I'm hoping, kind of does analyze that and works with private developers so that they themselves promote, bike usage?
Well, right now, we've made some changes to our development standards where now, new development, we require bike racks. We go by the bicycle master plan. So we look at all that, any type of new development that comes in, if the master plan calls for any kind of bike lane, the developer will be required to provide that. Just a couple of weeks ago, last week, we had that event that was supported by SCAG, trying to promote more bicycling. During all our public participation processes that we've had at the Children's Fair, other events, this is what we keep hearing from the community. We need more bike lanes, but not only bike lanes, but safe bike lanes. We need to, a lot of it is educational, educating our community as to, bicyclists also have the right to use the streets. So we're doing that. It's gonna, there's a lot of documents out there, and any opportunity we get to get some funding or some assistance to promote or to add a bike lane, we're gonna go after. So right now, this is on 8th Street. You're gonna see some bike lanes hopefully soon. So we're doing some improvements under the ATP grant that we're discussing right now.
So can some of these funds be used to install bike racks within existing commercial developments or existing facilities? Because I think that's where people go.
Right.
And so without someone providing those to those businesses, they may not have the motivation to to do it themselves?
We can, in, a while back, we had a brief, I had a brief discussion with our parks supervisor, and I understand the city has some available bike racks. It's something that we can work together if that's the case still, if those racks are still available, maybe we can work with the Parks and Recreation Department to maybe install those racks.
Thank you very much.
So somebody has access to all of the old master bike plans that the consultant worked on for us all those years ago. We also had an outstanding walking path along the Bruchery when the canal was undergrounded along there. So does someone have access to that study as well? Or those plans? Okay,
On the shelf next to the others.
on the shelf next to the others.
Any other questions, Mr. Garcia? No? Okay. A motion to adopt Resolution 16-13, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro supporting safe routes to school programs. There's a motion by Cardenas, second by Walker. Please ballot. Passes 5-0. Item number 20, an ordinance.
And Ms. Villacana, these are the types of things that the council would really like to get involved in. So if we could have pre-notification of like a walk to school, if we're going to have like the human school buses with the kids getting together to walk to school, the walking school buses, that would be great. Okay.
Okay. All right, item number 20, an ordinance of the City Council, the City of El Centro, repealing and readopting Section 17-57, Division 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 17 of the Code of El Centro relating to speed on certain streets.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. Non-prima facie speed limits are based on speed surveys. The California Vehicle Code authorizes cities to designate and regulate speed zones within their jurisdictions based on traffic speed surveys. Speed limits for these streets are set by the 85th percentile speed. This speed separates the slower 85% with the faster 15%. In other words, it is the speed at or below which 85% of the traffic travels. Speed surveys are typically required every 5 years or when there is a geometric roadway change. This survey establishes new and reestablishes old speed limits on the city's roadways in accordance with the California Vehicle Code. Adoption of the study will enable the police department to issue tickets on these streets. Surveys must be conducted every 5 years. The surveys can be extended to 7 years provided city's police officers have completed a 24-hour radar operating course. Some surveys may be extended to 10 years if a traffic engineer certifies that no changes in the roadway or traffic conditions have occurred. Sorry for the smallness of this, but there's 45 segments that we performed the speed surveys on. And this shows the current speed limits and the proposed speed limits. And then the next slide shows the changes. There's 12 places where there's segments where there's an increase in speed and 6 where it was reduced. And this gets into the detail, the next few slides here. If you have any specific questions, I can go back and answer those.
Mr. Hagan, just in regards to the recommendations and the speed limit, I'm looking at Table A, and I know they make recommendations, but could we still exercise discretion in terms of if they're recommending that, if they're wanting to increase the speed limit from 35 to 40, even though it's recommended, do we still keep the discretion or have the discretion to keep them at present levels when we choose not to raise the limit that they're proposing?
Well, they used other criteria. For instance, they used the accident reports and looked at those. And this study was done by LLG traffic engineers, and so they've looked at everything, all the different issues, and then decided whether to round down or not even raise some of the speed limits. I'm looking at some of the 85th percentile speed limits, and there's cases where they actually kept it the same or reduced it.
But
So,
again, when they make the recommendation, but do we still exercise discretion whether to follow up with that recommendation?
Right.
Do we have that authority?
right, staff has reviewed this and they concur with it.
they concur. And I guess my follow-up question, I know that, I'm glad to hear that they take in consideration accident reports, but do we also follow up internally with maybe our chief and public safety, just to say, hey, are they in agreement with the recommendation, or maybe they're seeing more accidents? And I guess the concern that I would have is on Aurora. And there's a gentleman there that lives on the corner of Fifth and Aurora, and he's sent me numerous communications just in regards to the speeds. But now one of the speed in the table, they're actually recommending that we raise it.
I see.
And so I'm just curious. And he sits out there and waters his lawn. I mean, every day.
Which segment is it?
And-
Which number?
And I don't know the number.
37.
Well, part of that issue is Aurora is such a wide street.
I agree.
Right, it's very wide.
So here's my question: why would we raise the speed limit? Excuse me. Why would we raise the speed limit there, or why would we maybe not exercise our discretion and not raise the speed limit?
You certainly have the ability to do that. If that's what you want to do in this meeting, we can do
The whole
that.
thing to me has always been really counterintuitive. It's like, we're gonna go out there, and if people are speeding down the street, if 85% of the people are speeding down the street, then we're gonna raise the speed limit. Right? I mean, essentially, that's
That's
it.
essentially it, but
So
then
it-
again,
to
you
me,
look at the
it's-
other
it's just
factors.
really it's always been
So all you guys that want higher speed limit, just get all your friends to speed down your
Just
street.
speed down the street.
You know, I think it's interesting that we just had a proposal about increasing bike activity, and now we're talking about having everybody drive faster.
Right.
What really got it for me is we're talking about safe routes to school, and yet how many of these streets
Yeah.
will kids be walking down
Absolutely.
to get to school?
When Aurora will be one of the ones that has the bike lanes.
Yeah.
And again, what I may be suggesting, and this is way above my pay grade, but I mean, maybe we take a little bit of time in determining if that is in the best interest in terms of raising these speed limits. I mean,
Can we go back and look at the list again, Terry? You have,
Sure,
Both of
inside
those
the
here.
staff report, there's table
yeah.
4-1.
I can either look at I have to look at it here because I'm totally electronic. So can you do it on
Okay, it's
your?
page 236 on the packet.
Yeah, I don't have a packet. I'm totally
Terry,
can you
flip back
electronic,
to
and
your
right now what I
presentation?
have up is this.
On the screen.
You want to go
So
back to that?
either-
Okay, that's hard
I think you
to
have it as
read.
part of your presentation,
There it
right?
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The first page? Okay,
Thing is
so-
there's nobody that drives 30 on Aurora. I mean, you're
Well,
lucky.
we're talking,
You're lucky if you're going 50 on Aurora. See, Alex is talking about 6 and 7, where they're proposing going from 30 to 35.
That's correct.
I gotta tell you, I didn't even know it was 30. Yeah. Because I've never seen anybody drive less than 50 on that.
So, Mr. Mayor, you're part of that 85%.
Probably, yeah.
Now,
Okay, but what's
in
the-
a situation where somebody gets a ticket on the street and they were doing, let's say, 37 or something, and they were aware that we went back and changed this from the
Yes.
recommendation,
right,
that might be an argument in court, I don't know.
yeah, that's the other piece.
I missed that part. So what
The
now?
enforcement action.
The enforcement action?
Because if we've been told that the speed limit should be higher because through custom and usage and everything else, and maybe an absence of accidents, it really, a higher speed limit would be okay in that segment, and then we don't raise it, but we're starting to ticket more and more people, then they could come back and say, well, you knew it should have been higher.
And I
Right, if
think-
they
I
went to
think
court
the-
and produced this study,
Yeah.
they'd have a pretty good argument,
And I think
possibly.
the flip side of that is if the recommendation is for us to lower the speed limit, and we don't, and there's a major traffic accident where somebody gets hurt or killed, then I think there's some liability that comes on the city because we went against the recommendation.
There could be, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ones that we are recommending,
There's 12 increases and 6 decreases, and they're all in bold.
okay, so Wake Avenue, bump it up by 5. Ocotillo and Aurora, bump it up by 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you go to the next page, please, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
Okay, and then commercial via. We're lowering.
Yeah, decrease Bradshaw,
Some of them are, one's a
We're
decrease.
decreasing Bradshaw.
La Brucherie and Wake. Adams.
From Wake to Ocotillo.
Just in regards to just general traffic enforcement, and this may be a question for our chief, I know well, it's my understanding we don't have a TC unit or traffic collision group, and I believe is it our patrol officers are the ones that are actually dealing with the enforcement, chief, or do we have dedicated resources strictly for enforcement?
The only time we do that is on an overtime basis, but it falls on our patrol officers.
So actually, it's the patrol officers that are doing the enforcement, and we don't necessarily have a dedicated resource to traffic enforcement.
No, it's the officers working patrol. If they witness a traffic violation, they take enforcement action. And on occasion, like we mentioned, we have the Office of Traffic Safety grant. It'll allow us to do special enforcement, but.
You know, it's very rare that I see a police officer with a radar gun doing a special detail. I mean, I don't see that as often in our city.
And as Mr. Hagan mentioned, the only way we can do it is once the streets are surveyed. Once the streets are surveyed, then we can run radar. When we've sent officers, patrol officers, to training, they're certified to run radar. We'll have one officer will run radar, and we'll have a team of officers citing people, but we need the streets surveyed first. So we'll be asking for this list also.
Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? How do we deal with the situation where if we look at LaBrucherie, we're actually recommending a variety of speeds, right? So we're recommending 45 miles per hour in some segments, 40 miles an hour in other segments, 40-50, or I guess 40/45, I don't know exactly what that means, and then 45 in another segment. So how do you deal with wouldn't it be better if it was just a consistent speed between point A and point B?
It'd definitely be easier. The officers have discretion in taking everything into account. You know, some people tend to go a few miles over the speed limit, and they can be cited. Others have no regard for any speed limit, and those obviously catch our attention, so.
But I don't know. It just seems to me that if you have LaBrucherie running from north to south, that
I
it should
agree.
just for the entire segment, it should be consistent.
And that's why my question was in regards to the discretion, but again, I don't know if it'd be appropriate now that we've disclosed that. We've basically showed our hand in terms of providing a legal defense.
And Mr. Hagan, can you explain on 31 what the 40/
Right, I believe it's direction, and it's probably access to one direction has less access points, and the other has more.
Southbound has
One is
less.
southbound. I think the 50 is the southbound because there's very few turnoffs on the southbound lane
Oh, I see.
of
Okay.
LaBrucherie.
I see, okay.
Interesting.
So I guess it really comes down to, Mr. Hagan, in your experience, we're kind of, even though we do have some discretion, we're somewhat bound to these recommendations due to enforcement and/or liability.
Correct.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have to wonder if, and I don't know if Mr. Childers or can chime in on this or not, but the fact that we have a recommendation for a certain speed limit and that we choose to keep it at a lower level, does that provide someone
It's called a speed
argument
trap.
for?
Yes.
It does?
Under Vehicle Code 40802, then it meets the legal definition for a speed trap, which is an illegal means of enforcing the speed. So if they're using radar in a section where the speed is lower than what the traffic survey suggests, then that would be a legal defense, and I suspect we'd see a lot of dismissals. Word would get around very quickly that if you get.
I think Chief has something to say.
And when we do radar enforcement and a citizen contests it, the traffic referee requires us to take the speed surveys. So we will be taking the speed survey to them for them to see that the recommended speed was such. So in effect, we're not even supposed to be writing citations for anything below the recommended.
So in essence, you have defense.
Yeah, we have to produce it, one, to show that the street is surveyed and show what the recommended speed is, to show that we're following proper procedure. The officer has to explain how the radar unit works and go through a whole routine, and it's a step by step. But one of the things is
If you're running radar, you have to supply the surveys. That's why we don't do enforcement if the streets are out of compliance.
Hey, Mr. Reagan, Mr. and Chief, I may have a follow-up question for you too. I heard that you referenced accident reports. Now,
Yes.
it's my understanding that if there's a non-injury accident, that we typically do not give accident reports. So when you say accident reports, are you referencing the accident report on part of the insurance company, or you're only referencing injury-related accident reports? Because again, and I want to defer to the chief, and I've been in an accident, and I've asked for an accident report, or I've asked for an accident, and I've been told that we don't do accident reports for non-injury. So how would they substantiate the recommendation if we potentially are not doing accident reports?
Well, the consultant obtained the accident information from the police, so.
I think they're with
So,
injury.
so we have plenty of injury accidents, and injuries can be very slight. Typically, we're overwhelmed with traffic accidents in this city, so we do try to respond and assist the citizens in exchanging the basic information. But if you're involved in an accident, you're required to submit a statement of financial responsibility through DMV. Typically, your insurance company takes it. That we don't have those details, but if they're coming to us, we do have some statistics, not a real accurate number, but.
So is the sample, do you believe, tainted then? Because maybe.
It'd be on the low end.
It'd be on the low end, correct?
As far as just property damage, traffic collisions.
The
Although, I stand corrected, because if we receive a call for service, we can query it that way. It may not be an actual report, but we'll show through our log comments that we responded to a traffic collision. So they could draw the information from that. Not a lot of detail, but they would know that there was a property damage traffic collision. Because it is, if we receive the call or we call it in.
The only time it wouldn't is if it was a minor fender bender and the two parties
they don't
dealt
involve
with
law
it
enforcement.
themselves and no law enforcement call.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So we're recommending, or what's being recommended is on VIA, number 24, between La Brucherie and Imperial, raising that speed limit from 25 to 35 miles per hour. We have 2 elementary schools there. We have King and we have.
Wild.
Okay.
On VIA?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Is it VIA?
how do we then,
Yeah, Martin Luther King.
again, so I guess when kids are present.
It's 15.
It's 15 or 25.
It's
Yeah,
15.
For
15?
what period, or for what distance?
Those signs are posted in front of the schools, though,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but for what distance? I mean, again, if we've got kids crossing streets or in that general area and people are going 35 up until what? 30 yards in front of the school, or what, that's what?
There's
I'm
no real
wondering.
distance, obviously. In some places, you leave the general area, you may see a new speed limit where it increases it. The issue with the schools here is if, like on VIA, if the survey says a specific speed and council doesn't adopt it, my feeling is we can't run radar. We can still do other enforcement as far as failure to yield to pedestrians or reckless driving, but my experience is that if the survey says a certain speed, that's what we have to use.
And Mrs. Walker, I'm looking at the statute here, and what it says is that the signs for the specific school speed limit can be up to 500 feet away. So it could be anything within there. And then those particular speed limits apply when school's in session. So there's kind of some caveats that go along with that where the 25 mile an hour kicks in per the statute.
So basically, the recommendation is to increase from 25 to 35 during non-school hours. But when school hours, it doesn't matter what the speed limit is, it always reverts to the 15 or 25 depending on.
That's one of the prima
where-
facie speed limits.
And the 85th percentile for that segment on VIA was 45 miles an hour.
Jeez
So
Louise.
they reduced it down to 35.
And Chief, I really hate to ask you this question, but it's kind of a tough question, but, so your opinion on these proposed changes, could you maybe share if you're supportive of these potential recommendations? And again, I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I guess I want a perspective from a public safety standpoint.
I think what Chief's saying is that his personnel can't enforce from from a radar perspective unless we adhere to the recommendations. So you're tying his hands or the,
Well, and then the reality, like Mr. Hagan points out, is the majority are driving those speeds anyways.
Or 10 miles above.
Yeah, or above it. In some cases, they may lower it, or it gives us a benchmark where we can start doing enforcement.
I mean, I get it, and I guess, it's something that we may have to do, but again, a point that Mrs. Walker made earlier on La Brucherie, if you go from one side of town to the other, you're gonna be facing 4 different speed limits on the same road. That's just confusing and.
But again, in our case on La Brucherie with the different speeds, when we do enforcement, we take that into account.
Yeah.
We're doing the enforcement between those areas where this is the speed. And obviously, in fairness, you give people a chance to slow down. You're not waiting on the other side of the sign and they're a foot into it, so you're writing them up. You give them a chance, but you're not gonna give them too much space either.
Just wait till we make that a 4-lane street.
then they'll reevaluate in 5 years and we'll go up.
And then we have kids trying to get to St. Mary's or.
Well, I think, I think there's some concern from all of us, but one of the things that I definitely would want is the ability for our police officers to run radar, especially on a place like Villa, during school hours. And the fact that if we don't adhere to the recommendation, we would actually be doing a somewhat of a disservice to those kids, not being able to run radar and enforce and ticket some of those people that are going outside that speed limit.
But what I thought I heard too is we still have a staffing challenge in doing that, and maybe.
But we're always going to have a staffing challenge. I mean, unless we have a huge windfall and we can hire another 20, 30 officers, which I'm sure Chief would love, we're always going to have staffing issues.
But it just seems to me that we should be able to come up with an engineering-based way to set speed limits
Right.
based on circumstance as opposed to how fast people are driving on the road. This just really is counterintuitive to me.
Well, again, there's the other factors, the accidents,
Right.
the geometry of the road and access and everything.
I mean, at the end of the day, folks, it doesn't sound like we have a
Right.
lot of discretion. Theoretically, we have discretion, but I think in actuality, we don't have discretion.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm wondering is if, Chief, you think that it would be beneficial to be consistent on La Brucherie and just make it 45 miles an hour from start to finish.
Well, then he wouldn't be able to enforce.
No? Okay, Abraham says no.
Again, you're dealing with the report, and it's a public document, and if they show up in court with it, they can have an argument.
No, but no, 45 actually is what they're recommending. What I'm saying is, would there be any reason why for number 30, the segment between Ocotillo and Adams, raising it to 45 so that it is actually consistent then?
But I
No.
think, like the mayor brought up, then you have an issue of that section should have been 40, the city council raised it 45, and you have that major traffic accident.
Right.
And you have liability.
I think it's crazy.
I agree.
Between
But
Ocotillo and Adams.
there's other areas where you see different speeds, and it's, yeah.
All right.
And I've been
Never
caught
mind.
in between that.
And fortunately, we have a lot of experience on the council, if I may.
We
Mayor.
have our consultant here. He can talk about this a little bit more, too.
He's back there going, oh, let me
So quietly sitting
Boy,
back.
you were really, really quiet. He's like, maybe they won't see me or they'll forget that I'm here.
Do you want to wipe your brow now? Oh, my God.
I think I got this.
People.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, my name is Shankar. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. We are with Lynn Scott Long Greenspan Traffic Engineers, and we were retained by the city to do this survey. So let me explain to your comment on La Brucherie what happened. So today, there is 40s for the most part, and once you cross a railroad, it goes to a 50. But that's just what's posted today. But when you start looking at what was 85th percentile speed, on the southern side, people are driving at close to 50, which is 48. Close to the urban area, it goes to 40. Northern area of the city goes back to 50. So again, there are some laws in the CVC that says you can have 5-mile-per-hour increments, but don't jog over to 10 miles per hour. That's why what we did was we kept 45 on the either ends of the city, but on the urban core, we kept it at 40.
Okay.
That's why. And again, we didn't want to go from 45 to, again, for your comment on segment number 30, the present was 40, the 85th percentile was 40. We don't want to raise that to 45 just to be consistent because we have no basis to increase that.
Okay.
So that's one comment. And second thing is we've tried to reduce it on more places than not if there was a high accident rate. So we can, if the 85th percentile was, let's say, 43, we automatically required to go to 45. However, if we decide the adjacent segment was at 40, and this segment that we're looking at has a high accident rate, we can get this down to 40. But we can't go any further than that. And the justification has to be either it's a lot of accidents, or there's a school, a lot of maybe bike lanes, mid-block pedestrian crossings, and that's why you'll see the justifications in the report as to why we chose to decrease it if we chose to decrease it. So that's why, I mean, I know we are bound by the CBC and the MUTCD, which is the national standard, but that's the approach we took.
Thank you.
Okay. Just one last follow-up question, Mr., and it's actually maybe related to Terry. So if we do move forward with the action and support the recommendation, how quickly do we have to make those changes to those speed limits? Or what's the timeline behind that?
Approximately less than 30 days. I mean, if we have the signs in stock, we'll put them up right away.
Wow.
And most of these signs, I think we either have the signs or the decals to put on the signs.
And then the training behind law enforcement or our police, how?
Oh, they're on it already. They're
waiting.
how to set it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further questions? Did I have it open as a public? No, it wasn't public comment. Okay.
I really am not happy with the Via Avenue one, though, going up by 10.
Aurora.
but- Because of the two schools there. And you did say that school sites was one of the factors that you looked
Yeah,
at.
it was, but yeah, via number 25, that's, I think you're talking about number 24.
24 where you're going up 10
Yeah,
miles
it's
per hour.
25 today, but close to the school, but people are driving at 40, 39. So we can go up to 40, but we can only go down to 35.
Okay.
So that's why we did, because we didn't want to go from a 25 to a 45 or a 40.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it is a two-edged sword.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much for being here.
Motion by Silva. Second by Walker. All those in favor?
Grudgingly.
And that was, I'm sorry, resolution 16-13, resolution, city council, oh, the wrong one. Yeah, was it 14? Ordinance, no, 04, right?
04.
I'm sorry, 04. An ordinance of the city council of the city of El Centro repealing and readopting section 57, division 1 of article 3 of chapter 17 of the code of El Centro relating to speed of certain streets, waive reading and approve on first reading, and authorize city clerk to place on next agenda for second reading and adoption. There's a motion by Silva, second by Walker, and vote was passed 5-0.
Mayor, for clarification for the
Yes.
council, remember, you have the second reading, you have a 30-day wait. So when we say it's a month, we'll start getting ready for it. We'll order the signs, but they won't go up until the 30 days is run.
Gotcha, okay. That's 30 days from today?
From the day of the second reading.
Of the second reading, okay, gotcha. Okay, item number 21, discussion and any necessary action regarding the awarding of the bid for library demolition project. Presentation by Ms. Piedra.
Yes, good evening again, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. As you know, staff has been working on preparing the bid for the demolition of the library, or I guess former library site on 539 State Street. On February the 18th, we actually had a bid opening. We received a total of 4 bids. And as explained in your council report, there was a bid that at the time seemed to be, the amounts just did not seem to add up to what in-house we had estimated was the anticipated amount needed for the demolition project. We received a letter after the bid opening by Unlimited Environmental Incorporated, which at the time their bid was less than $200,000, explaining that they had incorrectly added certain line items. And so they submitted a revised bid, and after seeking a legal opinion, it was determined that we couldn't accept it. Therefore, we looked at the second lowest responsive and responsible bid, which actually was Hal Hayes Incorporated, in the amount of $451,451. And so at this time, staff is recommending that we award the demolition of the library building to Hal Hayes. And also in the resolution, we are actually establishing a contingency for the project of $45,000. And so if there's any questions at this time, I'll be more than happy to answer those. As included in the report, we did check their contractor license, and it's valid. They're currently working with the Department of Transportation, Caltrans. They're currently building their maintenance building here in the city of El Centro, so they are familiar. They've done work here in the city of El Centro. Not necessarily for the city, but they are familiar with the area.
Ms. Piedra, and again, I appreciate, that's a good catch on the part of department and the follow-up. In regards to I think there was some discussion about the actual light post outside and us securing them, and maybe there's some significance or historical significance to them. Can you kind of give me an update on what the plan is with those light fixtures?
Yes, basically the two light fixtures that are in the building right now, part of the bid is included for the contractor to basically remove those, and we're going to store them. We are going to try to incorporate them into the new design future library building that we do build, hopefully.
Excellent. Any other articles or objects out there of historical significance that we maybe need to preserve, or anything?
Not necessarily. I mean, anything that inside in the interior of the building that was useful to us, we actually relocated to our existing location. As far as the exterior, pretty much the light posts at this point is the only items that at this time we consider we can actually reuse.
Yeah. And just real quick, in regards to the timeline on that, when do they think they start demolition, and what would a timeline, what would be a timeframe on that?
Sure. Basically, if we award tonight, we have about 30 days for them, to just receive their proper notice, and then obviously we have to have a pre-construction conference. So typically, we anticipate them starting probably the end of May, early June, and maybe having the project completed. It really just depends. We already know there's the presence of asbestos and lead. With these type of buildings that are so old, other things could potentially, come up. So we're hoping that maybe end of August, September, the building will be basically demolished.
Good. Any other questions from council? Okay, is there a motion to adopt resolution 16-14, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro awarding the bid for the library demolition project? There's a motion by Walker, second by Garcia. Please ballot. Passes.
Anybody see it as ironic that it takes us 6 years to tear down a building we haven't been able to occupy?
It's government.
Thank you.
Passes 5-0.
We take a quick stretch break or no? Before the big stuff?
Oh,
no, whatever.
Yeah, we could. I'm gonna take a 5-minute break, which always means 15, but we'll try to keep it 5, and we'll come back and let Letitia set up.
Thank you, Dr. Wright.
Okay.
Okay, City Council back in session. Item number 22, budget workshop for fiscal year 2017, general fund. Presentation by Ms. Salcido.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. Welcome to the general fund budget workshop for fiscal year 2017. Today, I turned off the system. Today we'll be presenting a preliminary budget. It is a work in progress. Up until the final presentation, we'll be adjusting it to reflect any updated information. We'll be incorporating council's feedback and direction and presenting a revised general fund budget at a follow-up workshop. Our goal is to have the final city manager's budget for the meeting of June 7 of 2016. Normally in the past, the sequence of events for the general fund budget presentation would be the following. We would review revenues first, go on to expenditures, fund balance, capital requests, personnel, and at the end, we would talk about the challenges. However, for tonight, for this presentation, it will be different. We will start with challenges, as that is the big problem. notice in this slide dated 2013, this is not a mistake. This slide is from the presentation in 2012 for the fiscal year 2013 budget. We were going over challenges back then. We were discussing future challenges, CalPERS, increasing cost, OPEB, et cetera. We were projecting back then a gap of approximately $2 million by fiscal year 2017, and that's the last column. Fast forward to fiscal year 17, and that time is here. We have various challenges, but we have two major ones. The major one, and we'll talk about this one first, is the shortfall for fiscal year 16 in the amount of $2 million. Again, a shortfall of $2 million, mainly from salaries and benefits and budget adjustment for capital expenditures. The shortfall, the breakdown of it for fiscal year 16 starts with salaries and benefits of $825,000. As you know, there was an increase in salary expense this fiscal year in the amount of $1.7 million. The budget for this year was able to absorb half of that increase, and the difference is part of the shortfall, the $825,000. Another major component of this shortfall of the $2 million is the $700,000 in budget adjustments above the original allocations for the department, mainly for capital expenditures and projects. For example, the Mayor's Vision 2050 plan, $50,000. The Veterans Park initial construction, $150,000. The replacement of the AC unit at the youth center, $217,000. The skate park completion, an additional allocation of $160,000, and then some other minor ones. We also have, as part of this shortfall in fiscal year 16, $400,000 that was allocated, actually $670,000 was allocated in the original budget, and that was to come from fund balance. We're estimating that the expenditures for this year will be approximately $400,000, and again, that's part from fund balance, and again, part of that $2 million shortfall. The majority of the shortfall are budget adjustments, addressing the needs for the various departments. Most are okay as they are one time. We have built our fund balance for such type of contingencies. The AC goes out at the youth center. This is not a recurring item. We have the funds designated for capital replacement, so $217,000, we're able to cover that. We have built up our fund balance to this point to be able to absorb those type of contingencies. However, the problem is with expenditures that are not one-time in nature, but ongoing. And that is the problem with the major shortfall number 2, which would be the shortfall for fiscal year 17. That shortfall is estimated at $2.2 million. And this is not from one-time capital expenditures or budget adjustments, but this is mainly from ongoing expenditures, mainly salaries and pension cost. The breakdown of this shortfall in 2017 is, number one, the continuing shortfall from the salary increase, $825,000, and then we have $812,000 increase in payroll costs, mainly from pension CalPERS. We have some other minor items, but which combined makes up the $2.2 million. We have an increase in liability insurance for next year of $129,000, and then a decline in gas tax revenue of $370,000, and that supports our street activities in the general fund. Therefore, the problem here is the ongoing expenditures. All in all, $2.2 million, and none of these are one-time, and therefore the concern. With regards to fund balance reserved and designated, We ended the year, that's the first column, with $13.5 million in fund balance, which declined $2 million, second column, by 16, or projected to decline. Then in 2017, it's projected to decline an additional $2.2 million, bringing the total fund balance to $9.5 million by the end of 2017. This is very significant as fund balance, as you know, back in 2013 was $2.8 million. We built up that fund balance up to 13.5 in 2015. And so there is a concern when it starts to decline. Fund balance was used, is to be used to weather recessions. Without the needs for layoffs, furloughs, or hiring freezes, such as the recession that we had in 2010 when revenues declined 4.2 million and almost 16% of our total revenues. Very significant. So we don't want our fund balance to start declining. But let's focus on the problem. The problem is not a revenue problem. Unlike fiscal year 2010, when revenues declined 16%, this is an expenditure problem. This is an expenditure mainly from labor cost and pension cost increases. The duration, in my humble opinion, it will be through 2018. So many challenges, but the major one would be the declining fund balance. It is a concern, it's a major concern, and one that we need to control in order to be able to bring structural balance to our budget, meaning that we need to be able to have ongoing revenues equal or match our ongoing expenditures. With regards to CalPERS, that's a major challenge. This expenditure will have increased in 3 years, $1.6 million. Just in 2 years, from 15 to 17, which is our budget and focus, it will increase 1.2. It's expected, based on the rates provided to us by CalPERS, it will increase an additional $400,000 to $500,000 in 2018. And the majority of that being our safety plan. The CalPERS cost in 2017 will be 19% of our budget. And for safety employees, we're paying 71% of their salary in CalPERS. It's an expensive plan, yeah.
And
yes.
in regards to it being, when is it actually payable? When is the CalPERS, is it payable in 2016, 2017? The 71% increase, is that when we actually?
We pay 71% on all safety salaries, and the payment to them is, it changed. It used to be with every payroll, you take 71%, and then for miscellaneous 13%, and you forward that. But now for safety, we make an advance payment. So it just, depending on what CalPERS desires to do.
So the payment is actually made in that fiscal year, it's in that fiscal year?
Yes, yes, sir.
And then, and again, that the 71% is related to our public safety employees?
Safety plan, yes.
Okay, and so does that also include dispatchers, or just includes, the way I looked at it, and I looked at your budget, I believe we have 100 sworn officers, and is it about 100 employees that are affected by that 71% increase, or no?
No, that's only sworn employees. That would be our sworn police officers and then fire.
So it's 100?
Not the communication, not the office staff, just.
And in terms of the contribution from our employees in relations to CalPERS, I had a discussion with Mr. Duran, and he said that our employees are already paying up to 11%. Is that accurate?
No, it's 9% for safety and then 7% for miscellaneous.
And so they, and what is the max? What, in terms of the statute, what is the max that an employee can contribute to CalPERS?
Right now, it's 9% and 7%.
Okay. So they're already being, they're already contributing the max?
Yes.
And then you say now, that's 2015, 2016?
No, that's for fiscal year 2017.
Okay. So potentially, we're not seeing them or seeing employees increasing their contribution to CalPERS. We can't legally.
No,
increase.
not at this point. No. This budget is a status quo with regards to what the employees are already contributing. There's been no changes. The charge, the expenditure, the amount being charged by CalPERS has increased because of their actuarials, their studies that they do and changes that they make in the retirement formulas. That's why we're seeing these increases.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I just follow up on that? Because I think
Yes.
Mr. Cardenas is asking a good question, and so I want to make sure that the answer is what I heard. The existing contribution that employees pay towards their retirement, that's that 9% and 7%.
Yes.
That's the maximum that is allowed under CalPERS? Or would a jurisdiction have the ability to share more of that cost with the employees?
I believe it is 9% and 7% as it stands. I've seen and I've read where the employees are asked to share more of what the city contribution is, but I'm not sure how it would apply to our city and what it would entail. So,
But the state's under and I know you're only speaking to the city of El Centro, but I mean, the 30,000 plus correction officers that we have in the state of California the state has the same dilemma in terms of CalPERS and the challenges with CalPERS. Is that?
that's correct, and like I said, they changed their formulas, their mortality rates have been extended, and therefore that's one of the major reasons actually why our cost is going up by so much.
Plus the fact that they have wholly unrealistic investment returns.
Investment returns, yes. Their investment return is, I believe, 7.5%, and everything is at less than 1% right now. Okay. Another challenge that we have is with regards to workers' compensation. In 2001, as you can see in the schedule, the cost, that's the first column, we were paying $1.3 million in workers' compensation. Back then, we had a crisis. We had a fund balance of negative $1.6 million. The city took action, and by 2010, the cost had dropped to $500,000, and the fund balance had increased to $6.3 million, which was excellent. Fast forward to 2017, and we're again paying a very substantial amount, $1.5 million for 2017, and then our fund balance has dropped to $2.7 million. For example, the reason that it has dropped, as an example, is that the general fund portion for 2017, for the 2017 payment, the 1.5 general fund portion would be an increase of $444,000 on top of what we already allocate to them, to the general fund. The general fund is not able to absorb $444,000 because then our shortfall would be $2.5 million. We adjusted the rates for all of the funds, and the allocation, the increase for workers' compensation for the general fund will be $90,000. This is a challenge, as the difference for the payment was made up from the fund balance in the workers' compensation fund. Again, a challenge, claims have to decline in order to reduce this expenditure and prevent our fund balance in the workers' compensation fund to not continue to decline. We want to have enough, so if we have a major expenditure or major request for payment, like the one in 2016, that $2.6 million, that we're able to absorb that. So see, we can pay the 1.5. It'll be a struggle, but we'll pay it. But it's when we get unexpected increases like the 2.6 million. We want to have enough in our fund balance to be able to cover that. So again, another challenge. And it's just all these different variables coming together and putting us, the city, in this situation with this shortfall.
Leticia, what was the issue that raised us to 2.6 and 16?
It was retro, so every year they evaluate all the claims and then their claims from back in the past. Yeah, so the difference, from the 1.5 to the 2.6, I think about 900,000, a million was retros. And see, every year they evaluate. So if next year they evaluate the claims from previous years and they determine that we need to pay a higher amount, then that's where.
And does the city work off the same system as like a business as far as a mod rate?
As far as what?
As a
Excuse
mod
me?
rate? They use a mod rate to calculate what our workers' comp is?
No.
No, it doesn't?
HR has that.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the,
Yeah, the modification rate is something used in the private sector, but JPA
Okay.
doesn't use that with us. They actually look at our claims.
the number of claims for both, yes.
Okay.
The challenge here is we want to prevent our fund balance from declining even more. Another challenge that I've reviewed in the past is the various capital projects that we need to build. We have a need for a police station, which based on, I sat down with some of our commanders and a consultant who has developed other projects in San Diego area, and we kind of did a rough draft of how much it would cost to get this building, $24 million for a police station. For the library, we are currently conducting a feasibility study. We have the project for the Crookshank landfill cleanup in progress. We have the aquatic center in progress. And then we have the park at Desert Village. And this budget has an allocation, a partial allocation for phase 1 of that project. And phase 2 will need to make an allocation available in fiscal year 18 to be able to meet that phase. Then we have the challenge with asset forfeiture. This is a totally separate fund. But the reason that I bring it up in this presentation, and this is because this is a revenue source for which the funds are used for police-related activities. The users are capital, overtime training, and the contribution to PAL. The revenues for this fund have seen a substantial decline from $500,000 to $20,000 this year. Fund balance has declined from $2 million to $500,000 and will be used up completely in fiscal year 2017. Well, this is good. We have bought equipment, we have bought various things and paid for various things out of asset forfeiture. This fund, unless the revenues start coming in, will be depleted. Which is a challenge because then all the expenditures that were previously paid by asset forfeiture will now have to be covered by the general fund. As an example, in fiscal year 16, this year, we allocated $723,000 for capital, where part of it was for the purchase of 7 vehicles. So again, if we have to, and we have to every couple of years, every 3 years, purchase vehicles, replace equipment, buy equipment, that will have to come out of the general fund, further making that shortfall even bigger than what it is right now.
Do we have
Yes, sir.
Do we have an understanding why such a drastic reduction in revenue?
On the asset forfeiture?
Yeah.
Chief, you want to come up and talk about,
Yes.
because what we have is, there's, if you will, monies out there. Well, Chief, why don't you go ahead and tell them actually what happened this week, which Ms. Salcido does not have. There's a lot of moving parts to the asset forfeiture.
Well, one thing, I mean, asset forfeiture, it's based on our participation in task force and seizures. Several weeks ago, the federal government, in an effort to try to balance their budget, called it a rescission. They just stopped all asset forfeitures throughout the country. Basically, we had money that's coming up the pipeline, as it were, coming through the different federal agencies that are reviewing what percentage we would get. Those were put to a halt. Although I believe it was yesterday or so, they've started back up. They've stopped it and they can proceed. So we'll have some money coming in, but that's not something that we can budget. You know, a lot of our budget asset forfeiture was from a case that Commander Sawyer worked years ago, and it was a substantial amount, and it's just as, if we decline our participation in task forces because of personnel issues, it'll go down even further, so.
But I thought there was some national backlash as well against asset forfeitures, that there maybe not, some departments were using.
Well, they have a lot of, there's guidelines and my feeling, as long as I've been involved in it, they're legitimate purposes, but yeah, there's examples of abuse. There've been landlocked jurisdictions that have bought vessels, you know, I don't know how you explain that, so.
There's
I mean,
substantial.
not on the purchasing, well, the
Well,
purchasing, yes, but
yeah, and back
on
east,
the-
there's a lot of how they're.
how the seizures are
Yes,
actually
exactly,
happening.
yes.
There's been a big national backlash against how those are occurring.
Yes.
And so I think it's like this perfect storm.
It's
for-
not, you know, the intent is to stop narcotics. It isn't meant as a revenue stream. So
Right.
It's really, for us, it's kind of just a bonus that allows us to buy those things that the budget wouldn't typically allow you to buy. And as I've discussed with the city manager, our canine unit only exists because of asset forfeiture. Several units that we've purchased recently. All of our body cameras. If this dries up, either the general fund has to pick it up, or as our cameras cease to work, then we won't work cameras.
Mayor, by the time we get to June, we're gonna know a lot more. The chief has a good idea of what's coming through, which is substantial, but until we actually, until the check clears, we don't wanna put that in
Right.
front of you. We wanna make sure, but we're looking at this, and as of yesterday, we received emails indicating that, okay, the Justice Department is going to flip back on that. I think they got a lot of pushback across the nation on that, and so it's being opened up, but until we see it, and so you'll have that information as we get to the end of this process. And it's about what happens next year. Leticia?
Okay. So that was asset forfeiture. Another challenge is special events, not as major as CalPERS or all the other challenges, but still, I'd like to discuss it. This fund was initially set up as a self-supporting fund to be supported by fundraising and contributions. But we have a situation where contributions are declining and the activities are increasing. We have a deficit of $47,000 at the end, projected at the end of fiscal year 16. And for the budget for 2017, we have requests totaling $70,000 and revenues totaling estimated at $20,000. That is a challenge, if we add the difference between that and our current deficit, we will be, the deficit in this fund will be $100,000. And the challenge is that would have to be covered from the general fund as well, further increasing the shortfall. The challenge here is meeting the request with the current level of revenues. So at some point, this has to be brought into balance because the general fund, in its current situation and with the projected deficit, cannot afford this, and every bit helps and every bit hurts if we go the other way.
Leticia,
Yes, sir.
Can you go back a slide? So, I don't know if you or maybe Marcela, but this is what we use to cover the special events, the Mardi Gras parade and the Grito and all those. So can you give me just a quick rundown over what events are covered out of this budget, either Leti or Marcela?
You can do it, Marcela.
Sure. Basically, and obviously considering that in the past we have not been able to fundraise, it's really difficult. Obviously, we ask of the private sector for many contributions, not just for special events, but for other programs and other activities that, specifically our department does as well. The special events that are considered here, we eliminated the music festival, which is no longer something that we do. We include El Grito, we include the Christmas tree lighting event, the Mardi Gras coordination, and also the Mardi Gras parade. The two new ones that we included in here, and that's why the increase in this request, is Dia de los Muertos, and then also the veteran celebration that we're considering for this year. So that's why you see that amount. But, you know, it does take a lot to do these events. Obviously, we have to rent audio, bring in entertainment, and, you know, we're trying to improve our events, but with that also comes a price tag.
Thank you.
Now we have another challenge, and that's the requests that are not in this initial budget. We had a request, total requested amount of $46 million. The budget, we're funding $39.7 million out of the general fund, asset forfeiture, RDA bonds, et cetera. There is $6.3 million that is not funded. It is mostly capital. As you know, we were slowly addressing capital replacement as we started moving out of the recession. However, the increase in other expenditures have limited our capacity to replace that capital. And therefore, the request for next year being so high. There's also an unmet need of $1 million in operations. And then there was additional staff requested, and the total amount of those requests was $1.3 million. None of that is in the budget. Looking into the future, the challenge for fiscal year 2018 is an additional potential shortfall of $2 million from salaries and from additional pension costs. As I mentioned before, CalPERS is expected to increase, I have 5 to 6, let's call it 500,000 for 2018. Then we have in 2018 another major project coming on board, and that's the new aquatic center. The center for fiscal is scheduled for completion in 2018, and it will require approximately $600,000 for operations and personnel. Just between the pension cost and the aquatic center at $600,000, that's over $1 million, 1.1, 1.2 million of additional expenditures that year, above and beyond what we currently have. That means that by then we need to build up somehow our revenues or reduce expenditures to be able to meet just that. There's a lot of things coming like at the same time. We have developed a budget for 2017 around those challenges that we're facing, and the following is that budget. For fiscal year 17, we are projecting in revenues, this is our revenues, $29.2 million, of which ongoing is only 25 because in the 29, we have $4 million for the Crookshank project. Individually, for sales tax, I'm projecting 200,000 increase. That's a 1.8% increase over the projected for this year. The average increase for the past 2 years in this category has been 1.26%. However, my projections for next year include the new stores, Aldi, Ross #2, and PetSmart, and therefore the 200,000. For motor vehicle license fee, the same level at $3.7 million. For property taxes, $3.2 million. Which is a 2% over the amount projected for this year. For TOT, $1.6 million, 60,000 over the amount for this year. I am including additional national growth, and then we have one new hotel coming on board. Other taxes, which is like franchise and business license, we're projecting 709,000, which is the same amount as this year. Building fees at 620,000, an increase of 75,000. I'm including there's a hospital building for which the fees will be paid next year, and then 13 buildings for the El Centro villas. Service charges, 373,000, a 38,000 increase, mainly from police PD fees and recreational fees. For grants and agencies, projecting 1.2 million, a 93% increase. That's mainly an increase from our post reimbursements, as well as dispatch. We're renegotiating our contract, and so I'm projecting the increase in this category. For fines, other revenue and transfers in, we're projecting $6.4 million, which is an increase, a substantial increase of 3.7. But this is a category where we budgeted for the Crookshank, the $4 million. So that's a majority of that. Overall, again, $29.3 million, an increase of $4.2 million, of which $4 million is Crookshank, 233,000 is from all the other categories.
Ms. Salcido, is the 2% property tax bump, is that consistent with what the assessed value and that the county just sent out?
That's part of it, yes. Okay. Natural growth as well. With regards to expenditures, we are projecting, estimating 31.4 million in expenditures. Individually, we have for the general government an increase of 385,000. Basically, it's a liability insurance increase, 129,000, increase in other operational categories, professional fees, electricity, and then the projected for 16 is a little lower because due to salary savings in some vacant positions. For police and fire, an increase of 322,000 and 522,000 over the amount projected for this year. Mainly, the main increase due to CalPERS, and then salaries. Public Works, an increase of 4 million. We're budgeting 5.3 million, and that's administration and streets. And again, the $4 million, that's the Crookshank. Engineering, an increase, we're budgeting 407,000. That shows a decline of 38,000, but that's mainly capital that we budgeted for. The amount projected for this year is higher as it has some capital allocated that's going to be completed and purchased, so it's no longer allocated in 17. For building, we're allocating 647,000. That shows of 60. And the reason being for the increases, the 16 is salary savings, lower salaries due to a vacancy of an inspector position. For planning, we're budgeting 334,000, shows a decline of 108. That's mainly from professional fees, a decline in professional fees. Some projects that we had in 16, we no longer have them in 17, and therefore the lower allocation. Park maintenance, we're allocating $1.3 million. That's a decline of 327,000 from this year. However, again, this is due to capital. The allocation for this year is they have 350,000. They're completing that capital. They're purchasing it this year. No longer, so the allocation is no longer in the 17 budget. Same situation with recreation. That shows a decline. We're budgeting $1.4 million. A decline of 248,000. Again, capital, we have 385,000 this year. That's no longer in their of capital this year to be completed and no longer allocated in 17. For the library, we're allocating 935,000. That's a decline of 183,000. And again, the same situation, capital. The demolition, we have allocated a substantial amount this year, 400,000, and next year we're allocating to finalize the project, 200,000, and therefore the decline in this category. Economic development, allocating $438,000. An increase of $59,000. That's due to the fact that we're now allocating to the general fund a higher portion of salaries that were previously picked up by the successor agency fund. Blight elimination at $48,000, an increase of $13,000. We're allocating and budgeting for the full amount of the employees there. This year, it's a lot lower because some of the salaries were allocated to other divisions.
That is within,
Yes, sir.
within these projected expenditures for next year.
Yes.
Where do the additional expenditures that you referenced earlier, such as the 70,000 for special events, are they here? Is that?
No. The special revenue fund for special events is not included in here. The shortfall, the difference, no, that's not included in here. So the shortfall in the general fund of $2.2 million does not include the 100,000 shortfall that would be in special events at this point. There's several things that were not included, and we'll go over some of the capital and so on. That was not included. For fund balance, reserve and designated, we'll be starting the year with $11.6 million. After revenues and expenditures for next year, we're projecting a $9.4 million ending fund balance. We, per our city's financial reserve policy, we have allocated for the 10% for economic unknowns, for our accrued leave liability, $1.5 million. That's in line with our liability. For vehicle and major equipment replacement, we have allocated $3.8 million. Again, as mentioned before, this is very low. It should be, the recommended amount in this category should be about $16 million, which is equal to our accumulated depreciation on our equipment. Our equipment is on its 13% of its estimated remaining life. That's furniture, equipment, machinery, vehicles. And we're at $3.8 million. We try to budget every year, but due to limited resources, we cannot meet all the needs. For the Crookshank, we have, as you know, in the budget, $4 million allocated for that expenditure. And within our fund balance, we have designated an additional $1 million to be able to cover this expenditure should it be higher than the $4. For building replacement, there's no designation this year. As you recall, that was $4.4 million in the past. It's been depleted because of the shortfalls in 16 and 17. Overall, $9.5 million total. With regards to capital request, the total amount requested with this budget was $17 million. Normally, we review capital requests to evaluate to determine whether it's a safety need, a legal requirement, or to improve customer service. With next year's budget, that was not the case. The majority of the capital being recommended with next year's budget is capital that had a designated funding source or pool. We're recommending in this draft budget $12.7 million, of which 4.5, and that's for general fund activities. We have 4.5 in the general fund, and then 8.2 million from other sources, such as the RDA bonds, HUD entitlement, park construction, and asset forfeiture. The recommended capital is the following. We have the $4 million for Crookshank. We have $422,000 for the Veterans Memorial Park. We have $689,000 for the Desert Village construction, $200,000 for the library demolition, and $5,640 for $5,600 for 3 computers and 2 scanners. So basically, the majority of the capital is, again, items that already had a designated funding pool. I need to check The park construction, Desert Village, I think that one. Okay, the request is 689,000, but the amount for phase one, being allocated in the budget is 517,000.
And that matches the
And that-
available impact fees that were, the Quimby Act fees that were collected.
Yes, sir. Yes. So, 517,000 would be phase one, and then the difference between those two, the 172,000, would be needed in fiscal years 18. Then for general fund activities, again, we are allocating 7.3 million for the aquatic center, and that's going to be from HUD entitlement, RDA bonds, and CDBG program income. For asset forfeiture in Stone Garden, we have budgeted approximately 412,000. And the capital being recommended out of those funds is safety equipment, 50,000, 51,000 for ballistic vest, 183,000 for cameras for the patrol vehicles, and then the Cisco network and professional services to install those cameras in the vehicles. Additionally, 60,000 for the evidence room reconfiguration, again out of asset forfeiture. Some of the capital requests that were not included in this draft budget is, and due to limited resources, was the following, and it totals $4 million. We had for the city council, city clerk, IT, city attorney, and the incubator requests for a podium, software, computers, scanners, TV, that were not included in this budget. For the police department and for the police department, we had requests for copy machines. We had requests for general service vehicles, 243,000, that's for 5 vehicles. The department cameras at 101,000. So a lot of major requests, a lot of important requests, but again, this budget cannot support it. We had a request from the animal control division to remodel the pound at a cost of 120,000. For fire, portable radios, computers, parking lot repair at Station 1 and 2. For street maintenance, building, and engineering, it's trucks, equipment, and computers. For parks, the list is very extensive. We have made a lot of progress in the past. We have done tremendous number of repairs and purchase of capital. I did a schedule as to how much, and from 2013 to 2017, based on what we have projected, we have spent approximately $12.7 million in capital, whether it's the Carlos Aguilar Park or the Buckland Park, Sunflower, the sports complex, the skate park, lots and lots of improvements. Again, $12.7 million in the past, since 2013. But there's still a lot of needs. We have, for Buckland Park, a request for restroom rehab and parking lot renovation, $280,000, $50,000. We're going to need $172,000 for park construction at Desert Village in fiscal year 18. That's the phase 2. There's needs for trucks, for tractors, for trenchers. And then here, the significant amount is the $760,000 for the purchase of 5.43 acres in Industry Park, not included in the budget. We have, again, parks, skidster, broom attachment, a need for a stage line extension, and amphitheater, $1 million, hydro machine, mower, and so on. And I put them in the priority that the department provided it to us. So these are farther down the priority list. but again, all important. For recreation, we have a need for iPads and just some other equipment, recreational equipment, and then software for Munis software. For the community center, the post office pavilion, the youth center, a need for a minivan, some tables, a pickup truck, so a lot of vehicles. For the adult center, the library, the adult center is computers and printers. For the library, their major item request was the microfilm reader. For the economic development, a computer and then a TV computer combo. Under asset forfeiture, there was some unmet needs. More safety equipment, we budgeted for some, but not the full amount. Furniture and fixtures, computers, building upgrade, 80,000. Again, funds are being depleted and cannot support the request for those funds, for those items. With regards to personnel requests, we received a request for 17 positions, 3 reclassifications, and 3 temporary positions at a total cost of $1.3 million. For the city manager, there was a request for a secretarial assistant, and then a request to delete the temporary secretarial assistant position at a cost of $16,000. City attorney to delete the vacant specialist 2 position, add a staff assistant at a net savings of $28,000. For facility maintenance, there's a request for a building maintenance mechanic, as well as a clerical assistant, which will be half-time facility maintenance and half-time engineering at a cost of $52,000. For police, we had a request, from police, we had a request of 7 police officers and 3 community service officers at a total cost for the 2 of $915,000. For parks, we had a request for a park maintenance 1 worker, $55,000. For recreation, a secretarial assistant, $50,000, and then a rec coordinator for half recreation, half community center at a total cost of $72,000. The temporary positions being requested are a city clerk, a clerical assistant, half-time, the cost $14,000, and economic development, a project coordinator at a cost of $15,000. With regards to reclassifications, that's for 3 positions, the senior engineer, engineering tech 1, and then the community development specialist 2. The cost for the senior engineer to a deputy city engineer would be an increase to the general fund of $7,900. For the engineering tech 1 to a 2, the cost would be $2,400. And for the community development specialist 2 to the economic development manager, the cost would be $6,000. For all of them, the total cost would be $1.3 million. Now, at this point, the budget being presented to you before you is a draft budget. We will continue to update the budget to reflect new information. We will continue working on trying to mitigate this deficit because we need to bring structural balance to the budget where revenues, ongoing revenues equal ongoing expenditures. The real challenge is that these expenditures are ongoing in nature. And the real challenge is, the second part to the real challenge is that the external forces such as CalPERS, whom we have no control over. For 2017, we will try, like I said, to mitigate this deficit, but they will most likely be one-time fixes. Because what really needs to happen to bring this balance is for expenditures to either go down or revenues to increase. To be able to bring this budget into balance. And that completes my presentation.
Mayor, before you start your questions, is in your report, in your council packet, there was much discussions about, there was additional discussion outside of this. And one of them was, we did look at our revenues and working with our outside consultant and Ms. Salcido looking at how other agencies, our organizations measure performance on revenues, you see, we're at 150% of mean. And this came out 8 years ago when we did our general fund plan, where a consultant stood in this room and indicated we had too much sales tax. We had too much retail. Well, you can see where what the other cities are doing that are below that mean that's in that report, they have a bigger problem. I think you're reading it in the paper. So this is a statewide issue, including the state. And there was a question of, would the governor intervene and have CalPERS stretch this recovery back out? We haven't seen that. So what we're giving you is the information we have today without speculation, working toward not a solution, but a mitigation, because the solution is more revenue, lower expenditures. And we've done this in the past. Because maybe recall it 2009, we had to cut quite a bit of our budget out, and we did it. And the good news is you do have reserves where before you didn't. So with that, I think we're looking also for the input now from the council and public.
Silva, you want to start?
Not really, but.
Can I say just one last thing? We made it through the 2010. We'll make it through this one again.
That's reassuring.
We'll work together. Staff has been, our department directors, our staff have been great, and I want to thank them. When we met, they're all concerned about this situation. They're all trying to do their part to make this happen and to get us through this couple of years and the shortfall. So we'll make it, just like we did in 2010.
So taking into account the comments made by Mr. Duran, that this is it's work in progress, and there's some questions that will be answered later that perhaps will give us a more optimistic view. At what point in time do we need to kind of get into the weeds and make difficult decisions over what things do we fund and not fund? But what's your estimation as to when we need to have
No.
those now?
No. No.
Today?
Maybe not today, but I think we need to rein it in. We need to stop the overflow. Now, we're working on solutions. We're working on, like I said, a plan of action on trying to mitigate this. And we'll bring that back to you at a follow-up workshop.
Okay.
And I think why I use the term rather than solve, but to mitigate. This is multiple years. And we talked about back in 2013. The question was it really going to happen? And in the meantime, you put a lot of money away in different reserve accounts. We really were looking for this not happening. And of course, Cruikshank came up. We were able to handle that. So we're going to look at how we can reduce this. But all these reductions that I'm talking about are one-time fixes. So for the next 3 years, we have to be very careful, and we can get through this. But it's a matter of being careful.
And I want to say, Letty and
Yes,
Ruben, that I think the reason why, the city of El Centro is in the position that we are is because of the work that you do along with the department heads and being proactive and look at realistic statistics and not be overly optimistic about revenues and being conservative and kind of leading us in that direction. I think it's a tribute to you and tribute to Mr. Duran in terms of, preparing for scenarios as we have now, because I think under different circumstances, this could have been a lot worse. But because of the prudency that we experienced and acted upon, we are, these are difficult times, but I think it's a testament to you and the work that you do to kind of keep us in front of these difficult questions to ask. So I think, but when the time comes, well, we have to make decisions, that time will come.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know, and just previous that, and again, I appreciate not only you, Leticia, but your department, and again, just keeping things where they need to be. But, I would like to see, and this is not a reflection on our economic development department, but it appears that there's always this focus on reducing expenditures as opposed to promoting economic development. If we were to do a SWOT analysis of our city and look at what are our true strengths and opportunities, and you actually share that, Mr. Duran, about the retail and the retail experience that we offer to this county. And, you know, putting a very aggressive plan to bring commerce and bring economic development into our city. Again, we have proven over and over and over that retail is very important source of income, our sales tax income. And so I would maybe like to see in the future or down the road is a very comprehensive economic development plan on what we're going to do to, you know, drive up that sales tax revenue. And again, I don't know what that is. I don't know if we need to hire a consultant, but I mean, the time is right for us to really share what our strengths are in terms of opportunities. And again, I don't know, but I would love to see in the future a very comprehensive economic development plan on what we're going to do to chase revenue. You know, looking at the budget, we only have 1.1 million in grant opportunities. And again, I'm not sure if we're chasing those grant opportunities. We clearly have the demographics to pursue those types of grant opportunities. We live in a country with over $1.1 trillion in philanthropy, and we're only pursuing $1 million annually in grants. So I don't know if that means we hire a grant writer to really pursue revenue. I don't know, but I would like to see, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Duran, that we begin to explore a comprehensive economic development plan to continue to pump revenue or chase revenue in terms of our community. I'm very excited about Lotus Ranch and, you know, the potential 690 homes that they're going to be building. But again, until they pull that permit, you know, it's a you know, pie in the sky. But, you know, Lotus Ranch is a huge project with some very reputable folks involved in that project, and I see it coming to actually be a successful project. But 690 homes from Lotus Ranch is a huge cash injection into our city. But, you know, what do we need to do to promote more of that? I don't have the answer, but I'm hoping that we can build a plan to promote economic development as opposed to reducing costs, reducing staff. But, and again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I don't know what that means or how that would look, but I would defer to not only to us, but to staff in coming up with a very comprehensive economic development plan to pursue commerce.
I think the caveat to new homes is they're always great to have at the start, and then they cost you a boatload of money later on with regard to the expenses. I'd like to see us examine an increase in our TOT. We haven't had an increase in our TOT for a long, long time, and yet we know we've got the new hotel coming on. We also know that at some points in time, our hotels are 100% booked. And then I would like to see if it's feasible for us to increase the TOT, what those funding levels would be if we increased it by, say, 2%, 4%, 6%. I mean, that really is the way that a lot of cities are looking to increase revenues, because it does not have an impact on folks that are living there. It's your out-of-town people that are coming in. So I see TOT as maybe some low-hanging fruit in terms of being able, that would be within our control to increase that. I'd also like to see if we could, and to the extent we do increase the TOT, I really think we need to pour more money into our parks and recreation programs. Because we need to look at not only the funding for the programs themselves, but what does that do in terms of a return on investment? And I think in particular with how that changes the lives of our young people and their families. And if we can keep them engaged and keep them from becoming, you know, involved in other things that are not as productive, I think that we would be miles ahead with regard to the initial investment in our parks and recreation programs. So those would be my two ideas with regard to what you've presented here. And always kudos to you and your staff for giving us the presentation. I would like to see us also consider maybe doing a 2-year budget, because we know that our greatest expenses are salaries and benefits. We've entered into 3-year contracts with every bargaining unit, so we pretty much know what those costs are going to be for the next 2 years. So is this the year that we buckle down and think about doing a 2-year budget instead of just a 1-year budget? And that way, some of those expenditures and revenues, we could maybe smooth out a little bit over the course of the 2 years. Just a suggestion.
Mr. Garcia?
Kudos to the department for being proactive with this, you know. Obviously, it comes from a state level, and they kind of put us in a bit of a pickle there, but it looks like we're definitely taking a look at it and seeing how we can get through this period. I also like the ideas that Walker basically proposed about the TOT. I just had a discussion yesterday with some out-of-town visitors that were basically discussing how the hotels by the mall are at capacity. So that's also something that I would like to see about what kind of revenue would come out of raising that tax, and it would not have an impact with our local residents. It would be outside dollars coming into the community. Also, what Mr. Cardenas said strikes a chord in terms of being aggressive, in terms of trying to promote more sales tax. We do have sales tax is a very important part of our budget, and we do have a lot of commerce in our city, and obviously growth in terms of that. Again, bringing outside dollars into the community would be extremely beneficial for our budget, and I think would help us in a long-term plan. If we were looking at a budget 2-3 years down the road, I think we need to start trying to plan out an aggressive position for the city in trying to bring in outside dollars in. So I would like to see some proposals on how we can do something like that.
You know, that's, can I comment on that? That's I think it's a viable comment to make, to try to find mechanisms to improve sales tax revenue. But we also have to face the reality of competition. And you know, when the Calexico Mall opened, it hurt us significantly. And now I understand that they're building phase 2 and phase 3 to come. And so that's going to have additional impacts on our revenue. It just will. So preparing for that, I think, is going to be crucial as well.
And then to add to that is we're already at the top 20% of all agencies in California with regards to sales tax. We exceed the average for California by 149% of the per capita for California. We're doing very well, actually, in comparison to other agencies in this county and throughout California. We're on the top 20% sales tax producers.
Which
So,
I think
that's extremely
Yeah, which I think is it's a
fortunate.
significant testament to us maybe pursuing other opportunities. And I don't know what type of discussions we're having with Alicia Swain in terms of what she's seeing in terms of sales. And again, that's why I would like to see and to include TOT just a very comprehensive plan on what we're doing to promote. And I know that's probably not your department, Ms. Leticia, but just in regards to a comprehensive economic development plan.
Sure.
And maybe that would give your department the relief. You know, we have Dr. Ryan here too with our 501c3 that we started. You look at that, the list of parks and recs, and there's just tons, in my opinion, and I'm substantiating this with my experience in my day job profession, is a lot of those items there can be pursued through foundation grants.
Okay.
And we have that structure that's set up there, and it's just a matter of coming together.
But, you know, I don't disagree with any of these things, but I think that we have to remember what the basic message today was. And the basic message was, it's not a revenue problem, it's an expenditure problem. And our costs have risen tremendously in matters that we have no control over. And so that's the challenge. I think that we can look at TOT, and the overall picture of things, you know, that's still relatively small compared to our overall budget. We could,
Right.
You know, so it's a huge challenge, and we have to face.
Yes. One last comment with regards to the TOT. I believe that a change in the TOT rate would trigger Prop 22?
Well, one is be elections required, and by the way, we have to go check. I'm not sure if we're at the top of there's a limit on TOT, there's a limit on sales tax combination. Well, we'll have to do an evaluation of what the statutory limit is. And I don't think we're at the top of sales tax, but I think we may be at the top of TOT, but we'll confirm that. The point is, good idea. Don't disagree with that. And we have time to put that onto the ballot in the fall. Yeah, we have a new hotel opening, and
I think,
thank you.
you know, I think there's a lot of good ideas up here as far as, I think TOT is possibly low-hanging fruit, but I think we need to also be realistic, and we also need to ask staff to prepare a list of potential cuts and things. We are gonna have to make some tough decisions, and that's just, I mean, that's just the reality of it. TOT and economic plans aren't gonna make up $2.2 million. So we're gonna have to look at some potential cuts, and so I think it'd be prudent to start putting together that list of what those tough decisions may be coming up in the next 30 to 45 days.
Well, and we hope that we have a more realistic idea as to what our city attorney
Yes.
dollars
If
will be.
you notice, we left that all intact.
Right.
And
So,
going forward in next year, a lot of that's going to be left there under any circumstance until we really know how it
Right.
works out.
right, well, we'll have a better idea later
We're
this
hopeful
month.
for that.
Yeah. And there's things that, you know, I mean, I think, Letitia, you've always been good about giving us kind of the worst-case scenario. And we haven't always realized that, luckily. And so there might be some things that you're preparing us for that may not come to fruition, and we might see some cost savings here and there, or some upticks of different revenue streams. So I think Cheryl's right. We've got, in the next week, we'll have some ideas about our legal services, and there's potential savings there. You know, we might have to cut some of our special programs or our special event programs. There's things that we can do to kind of rein in some of that.
Yes.
But, you know, maybe Chief's talking about there's potential for some asset forfeiture money coming in that, you know, we're not counting on. So, I mean, there are things that might be coming down the next 3 to 6 months that might offset some of this, and it might be not as much doom and gloom, so.
Right, and that's why I said it's a work in progress, so hopefully it gets better within the next 2 months.
Thank you.
Thank
you very
you.
much, Letitia.
Your next hearing is on,
The first week in May.
in May, and that'll be on the enterprise funds.
Enterprise funds, and I might have, if I have any updated information with regards to the general fund, I'll bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Good job, Letitia. Okay, informational, I'm sorry, you know what, we got so wrapped up in that. Dr. Ryan, I apologize, you had a speaker slip on the budget issue. Would you still like to address? Come on up.
Well, Mr. Mayor, council, and very informed employees, staff of the city, thanks for giving me a chance to speak. That was an incredible budget presentation, and I really appreciated the comments of department heads throughout the whole, and other department personnel throughout the discussions tonight. You all get an A for endurance and attention to detail. It's a long process. And I've learned a lot about the city tonight, and I don't think I've ever spent this much time at a council meeting. And I appreciate much more your work.
Here, the first and third Tuesday of every month.
I know, I have it on my calendar.
And I want to
talked
say,
to city clerk.
that's not the first A that I get from Dr. Ryan.
He's tough.
I'm here in support of Parks and Recreation and the library. I've sat on the Community Services Commission, which is Parks and Rec, and I've sat on that for a number of years now. And Pete's still here, Pete Rodriguez, who heads that commission. My sense is, and I'm not just talking about this fiscal year, but going back 5-10 years before a bunch of you were even here, The Budget Act seems to fall more heavily on Parks, Rec, and the library, and that seems to be a history in El Centro, and that's something that concerns me a great deal. Councilwoman Walker mentioned the amenities and also keeping kids occupied through Parks and Rec and the library. But what I've read over the years is that when companies decide to move, and we're not going to get a medium-sized company very often, but when they decide to move, one of the things that the family looks at together is what are those amenities in the city? Do you have a decent library? Do you have a museum? We have a couple of good museums now in the area. What sort of recreation and parks do you have? So those things do have economic consequences. It's really hard to pin A to B, but they're there. They definitely are. And I also sense, having lived here for over 30 years, that organizations don't cooperate really well. There's not a lot of integration. And it's hard to get that going. And I read a lot of letters and a lot of emails. We don't seem to celebrate well enough things that we do have. The Imperial Valley Symphony, the museums that we have, the Pioneers Museum. We have a great jazz group here in the city. But a lot of times those things are like secret. And I don't know whose responsibility that really is. Perhaps it is Parks and Rec, but that means personnel. And that's a point I really want to urge here is instead of cutting those personnel, I think we need to enhance those personnel, despite the dire budget picture. Because we're never going to get off square one. And I have a feeling in the city we've been going backwards in Parks and Rec and the library. I really congratulate the city staff and the council on the great capital projects, the skate park, the aquatic center, and other things that are in the pipeline. But I think the skate park shows results of no staffing. A closed skate park is a wasted resource, and if that was the plan, we were on the Community Services Commission, all of a sudden we were told that there wasn't going to be staffed, and I was really shocked. Initially from a safety viewpoint, because I really believe in kids wearing helmets, and that's an uphill climb, and I've done a lot of research on that. But it's evidently turned into a bit of a problem with low-level crime there. And I understand Parks and Rec has told the police department, if there's a problem, lock the gate. And so I think we can be penny wise and pound foolish. We have all these capital projects coming up. Martin Luther King Center is another one, but if it's not staffed, it's not going to be a real resource for the city. And I think we can be short-sighted in those areas. It reminds me, Indiana University built this incredible new library, and they didn't budget air conditioning and heating, and they couldn't use it for a long time. So I think our problem is personnel, and I think we need to get the personnel on board and not cut Parks and Rec and library personnel. So I really urge the city managers and the staff and the council to respect the work of Parks and Rec staff, and as also the Community Services Commission, who I think have researched and prioritized city needs in these areas. I've shared a rough draft of these with Councilwoman Walker and Councilman Cardenas. And these come from years and years of the Community Services Commission sort of prioritizing things. And I saw a few things up on the list, such as an amphitheater in Buckland Park, things like that. Again, enhancing the resources in the city. So I don't think it's just money thrown away. I really think it's something we can say is another jewel in the crown. And here's a reason you should move to El Centro, and here's a reason you should locate your business in El Centro. So we need staff in those areas, and I think Parks, Rec, and Library, well-funded, can engage the youth in a positive way, and it's already been mentioned. Again, integrate local resources. The Symphony, the county library. We could do better work with the county library. We don't show up enough at county-wide library meetings. The Velo Club. Let's have a race out of the city or around the city. I know we do the Tour de Manure, but the Velo Club's racing all the time, and there are a lot of activities. And the last time they had a big race, I think, was in Imperial. We missed that, and the guy who runs it lives in the city. So finally, 2 cases in point. I use Buckland Park a lot, and it's a very heavily used park. It's a nice park. But there have been no real upgrades and amenities in years. Chris has done a great job. There have been capital improvements, and they've improved the sprinkling system, although we can't use water much anymore, according to the state. So I think we need to improve our parks overall. And secondly, after several years, the library is still in a rental space. It took us, 6 years now to demolish the old library. I don't know. Again, looking back, we seem to have been sluggish in making these things priorities. And when will we really get serious about moving towards a new permanent library? That seems like we're lead-footed about this. And the librarians pointed out that we have a 5-year lease, and I think we're probably in the 4th year of that or something. So we're not going to move ahead with these issues until the departments and the budget and the staff make these priorities, and I think that needs to be citywide. And I thank you all, and I really thank the staff for all their hard work, so thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Ryan.
Okay. Informational items 23 through 26. No successor agency or redevelopment agency items. Anybody from the public wishing to address the council? Seeing none, we'll go to task force and council reports. We'll start on the other end. Mr. Garcia?
Don't have anything to report.
Reports. Ms. Walker?
Well, I think in part because we missed the meeting in March, right, the middle meeting. I just had like a crazy bunch of stuff to report, and I'll go through it kind of quickly. Councilmember Cardenas and I had the opportunity this morning to be at the Imperial County Peer Review Kickoff with the County Social Service Agency. Had an outstanding inspirational speaker named Derek Clark as the keynote. Focus areas on their peer review in child welfare will be the reentry following reunification, and then also the focus area in probation permanency within 12 months. But I have to say, both Mr. Cardenas and I, we didn't want to leave because that speaker was so amazing. Yesterday I was in Sacramento. I testified before the Assembly Committee on Transportation in support of a SCAG-sponsored bill of legislation pertaining to freight funding and infrastructure improvements. That was a pretty cool experience to be able to testify, and the committee voted unanimously to support our legislation, so we were pretty happy with that. On Sunday, those of you, did you see the article in the paper about the AB 32 and the economic justice? So on Sunday, we did a bus tour with that group throughout Imperial Valley to kind of give them an idea of what some of the issues are with regard to the AB 32, environmental justice issues, so that was pretty interesting. The day before that, on Saturday, was the El Centro Regional Medical Center softball tournament and picnic, which was well attended. Just before that, then, the 3 days before that, Steve kept calling me and saying, "Are you ever coming home?" And I'm like, I don't know. Okay, so I want you to think about this. So I went to a CalCog, the California Association of Council of Governments, because as your ICTC representative, I actually represent the county at CalCog. So this regional leadership forum was in Monterey, and the theme of the conference was, what's transportation's future? Okay, now take that abbreviation and put it on a button. And anyway, that was pretty interesting. Kudos to staff for the tour to 8th Street. Did you finally get it?
Yeah, sorry, it was a delayed,
I still haven't got it.
from this end.
I'm slow.
This was amazing. The tour to 8th Street, the tour to Manure, all the happenings along Buckland Park and 8th Street, that was phenomenal. Well done. Mayor, you did an excellent job emceeing that.
Thank you.
We also had at the Elks Lodge, we had the Public Safety Officers Appreciation Night, and it was nice to see Chief Medueno there and representatives from our fire department cooked an amazing dinner for everybody. It was very, very well appreciated. That was kind of fun. Okay, so I brought pictures of the ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
Did you guys see those?
They're cool.
Yeah, so that was
Ribbon cutting for what?
well done.
For the bus stop.
Oh, okay.
Over
I see.
for it. Let's see, okay, so we had a Community Enhancement Task Force meeting, and you'll be getting the minutes from that. We already talked about the fact that we're moving forward with the street lighting, or actually community lighting. We're looking for a ribbon cutting at Euclid when those street improvements get done, because we've all gotten a whole boatload of issues with regard to that. Talked about the safe routes to school. I was also in Sacramento for SCAG. I was gone a lot. For our legislative reception in the 15th through the 17th. And last but not least, two more things. I attended a conference in Yosemite for local elected officials. Have a lot of information, Mr. Duran, I want to share with you on that. The last thing, though, I did was probably one of the most memorable. I went on a tour of the California River Aqueduct, which was sponsored by MWD. So we spent 3 days going all the way back from Hoover Dam and then coming out this way on an inspection trip. And I tell you what, the folks that had the foresight to even think about bringing water from the Colorado River all the way to the coast back in 1908, 1912, and a lot of that same engineering is still in use now. They were able to do that with 5 lift stations, and everything else is gravity fed to get that Colorado River to the coast, Colorado River water. So those were my activities this last month.
Yeah, just real briefly, Mayor. Again, I've been attending these chamber meetings. I know I'm probably new to them, but they're pretty interesting chamber meetings, and I want to thank staff for.
You want to expand on that?
No, I don't.
Mayor did this to you.
Oh,
I know.
Yeah, I know you guys have
I
all done
suffered
it,
through
but
last
I've Marcella's been. She came with me last time, and so and then Commander Alvarez also been with me. But I'm learning to take staff with me to these meetings, and they're really interesting. But I do enjoy them. Do want to thank them, our staff, and Councilmember Walker for all our help on the Go Human campaign. You know, I was cruising down 8th Street and just kind of seeing these folks walking down to the MLK, and I was just so excited and so proud of our city and staff. I saw Norma out there, Marcella, and our department heads just working and being part of this program. And I just want to thank you. I'm just really proud of the enrichment and some of these activities that are taking place. So I do, and again, special thanks to our mayor and Councilmember Walker for all their help on that. Just a great initiative. Also had a foundation meeting with our community foundation meeting, and we're kind of retrenching a little bit as far as opportunities. And again, kudos to staff and for helping us in terms of support services. Participated in numerous career day events, one with Central Union High School and the other one with Wilson. I represented the city of El Centro. And these are neat. These are a lot of fun, and I share a lot about our city, and I especially share a lot about our department heads. And I'm hopeful that maybe in the future, some of our department heads and some of our staff can participate in career days at our local high schools, because our students are really interested in that, and you know, the fact that they could aspire to these positions. And so I'm hopeful that in the future, staff can participate in these career days, and they're really neat and they're a lot of fun, and I think it's important for our students to see some of the leadership.
I think what's hilarious is almost every time they want to ask you how much money you make.
Yeah.
So when you tell them, well, you know,
Yeah, I
about
do.
$12,000,
I do.
you're like, oh, I don't want that job.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I told them, and so it's really interesting to see that. But again, Imagine Awards, huge success. Deborah, everybody. I mean, those things are so neat, and I appreciate all your guys' help. So just a lot of different activities. I forgot everything that I participated in, but it has been crazy. But thanks again, I mean, to all staff and all the help that you guys do, and very pumped up about our city right now. Thank you.
Mr. Silva.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we met, so, and so I don't know if I even remember all the stuff that we did, but I know that you forgot that we attended the PetSmart.
Oh, yeah, that's
PetSmart ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
The mayor, Mr. Cardenas and I were there for that. I
Right.
also attended the Renewable Energy Conference
Yeah.
with IBDC. I want to give you a save the date for May 7. I think that's still on, Marcela, the Cinco de Mayo. Have you heard from the Consulado?
May 7th?
Yeah.
I thought that's Dancing with the Stars.
No, that's May 6th, so that will be the day after Dancing with the
okay.
Stars. I'll check with that. The last conversation that Marcela and I had with the Consulado was that we would plan something for May 7 at the old post office pavilion. And I think we even discussed about inviting back, if you remember La Rondalla was a group that played at Southwest High School about 3 years ago.
That was amazing.
That was fabulous. So that was conversation about maybe inviting them to be at the old post office, which they'll pack the house, because we had about 700 people at Southwest High School. But beyond that, I think in the next month or so, you're going to have an actual MOU that will be brought to the council for approval between the city of El Centro, the Consulate of Mexico, and the Cultural Center in Mexicali. This is kind of piggybacks to our sisterhood with Mexicali. And the thought is to have a recurring series of cultural events at the old post office pavilion. And then we would reciprocate by coordinating with local artists to perform in Mexicali. So that's really exciting, and formalizing that through an MOU, I think, is significant, and it shows a commitment from all the different parties that we want to bring culture here, and we want to take our culture back to the other side of the border. So that's exciting, but I don't know whether that will be finalized between now and May 7, but if it's not, I'll check tomorrow, but save the date in case that materializes.
Okay.
Just a quick update on Dancing with the Stars. There's 5 alumni of that, 3 alumni, no, 4 alumni of Dancing with the Stars, which is May 6. We sold out a month ago.
Wow.
Of tickets, and we probably could have sold another couple of hundred tickets based on the wait list of people that are wanting to buy tickets to that event. So it's, yes, right. Yeah,
Mr.
so
Childers said he was interested in participating.
he has participated.
Oh, he has? You're alumni?
Yeah. You're the only
He wants to
one
do it
that
again.
Did you do it? Second year?
Who, me?
I did, no, Cheryl, Jason, me, and you.
Okay, so you're the one who hasn't.
I have a,
Yeah, so.
I have a disability. I can't dance.
I had the same disability.
Yeah, that's right, it didn't stop me. So.
Yeah.
So that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Marcelo. Yeah, it has been a long time. So real quickly, had a meeting on the 11th with Senator Wesso. I want to thank some of our staff, Terry, Ruben. We asked him to help with the Crookshank and potential funding sources to help alleviate some of that in anticipation of our budget shortfalls. I think we had a really positive meeting. We'll see what comes of it. We did have the PetSmart opening on the 12th. Also that day, attended the Daniel Tucker Eagle Scout Court of Honor. And then that night, about 10 minutes after that, flew out to DC. That was a bad week. The 19th had the Relay for Life, always a great event, and presented a proclamation from the city. On the 21st, in trying to continue your start, Mr. Silva, of our relationship with Mexicali, Liz and I and a few of us went to a Solis game. They are
cool.
so if anybody's following it, and I've actually kind of gotten into it since the first game we went to. It was a semifinal game, and they totally blew out the other team. They are in the finals. They are up 2-1. They won the first game by 2 points, and then they won last night by 1 point. So if there is a game 5, if they lose one of them away, then I think that'd be a great game to go to.
Yeah,
So, but it's It's for folks that don't know, it's like the NBA for Mexico. So it's a good opportunity. Mexicali will be the champion for the entire country of Mexico. So it's
Well, one of Ryan's classmates played for that. Omar.
Yeah.
yeah. You know, it's funny is all the players speak English because
they're
they're
from the
all. I
USA.
mean, you got players from. In fact, there was a player from Marquette. There's a player from
England.
Louisville.
There's one from England.
Yeah, Germany. There's a couple, and so the coach and players are all yelling at each other in English, and so works out pretty well. We did have the bus stop ribbon cutting. Attended the Elks Lodge public safety. Of course, we had the Go Green. Had
Go
him
Human.
Go Human. I'm sorry.
You can go green.
Go Green, Go Human. It's all the same. But I thought that was a good event. We, Cheryl and I participated in a meeting between El Centro Hospital and Yuma Hospital as far as how we could maybe work together on some services. The Imagine Awards, great job, Deborah and staff. Had a great time with that. Had fun filming the video. You missed. I was in Top Gun glasses, but I hear that it's on YouTube now.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a video floating on YouTube, so if you missed it, but it was a lot of fun, and we had some great businesses that got awarded. Task force report regarding the city attorney. Cheryl and I have been working on this with city staff. We had 13 responses to the RFP. Cheryl and I worked to pare that down to 5 that we are going to be interviewing next week on Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday and Friday. Yeah, Thursday, Friday. All the days just run together. And then we'll have our hope is to pare that down to 2 and then schedule full council to review the final 2. So we're moving forward with that, and I think we've got some really good, the final 5 that we'll be interviewing are all pretty top-notch.
I think what was really interesting is, and I appreciate staff putting together the master matrix for us of all 13 proposals, but Jason and I each had a stack and reviewed them independent of one another, kind of like a yes, no, maybe, and then sat down at the end and just kind of said, okay, who do you have where? And it was remarkable that I think with the exception of one,
Yeah, we only had one that.
we totally agreed
Yeah.
on who we needed to move where. And so we are going forward with 5 that we selected. And if for some reason one of those 5 is not wanting to show up for the interview, I can't imagine why they wouldn't. But
We have an alternate.
we have two maybes that we would move forward.
So we're looking forward to that. So, anything else for the council? All right, stand adjourned.